And we should be live. Hello, hello, hello. Good evening, everyone. How is everyone doing? Tonight we're doing something a little bit different. We're doing sort of like a Q&A / gameplay session with Dan and Kieran from All Aboard. Obviously, if you don't know who these guys are, you can introduce yourselves, say what you do. But obviously, if you saw the oh, well, that's me. If you saw the little interview we did a little while ago, these are the same two people from that little stream thing we did. So yeah, if you want to introduce yourselves, guys, and then we'll go into what we're going to do today, which is basically talking about the West Coast Main Line. Oh, saying that they can't hear you guys. 1 second. The game's really loud. Ah, that'll be why. Okay. Right, try that again. So hopefully I had the wrong outputs. So if you guys say something, hopefully.
What do you want us to... What? Hello?
Oh, it's
Is that better?
What's going on here? What have I done? I've done something.
Can't believe you're blaring us out with the TSW 6 music.
Hopefully that's fixed. I had the wrong outputs. I had it. I had the earphone audio at -20 and then I had Train Sim World at -6. It was the wrong way around. Hopefully that's fixed.
What? Hello?
That sounds better. Well, if you heard that, that's who's joining me today, and we are going to be pretty much talking about all things West Coast Main Line. Well, their West Coast Main Line representation in Train Sim World. So what we're going to do today is we're going to start at Birmingham, and we're going to go from Birmingham to Crewe in Train Sim World. Talk a little bit about that. I'm super loud. We can hear them. Okay, well, as long as we're all loud enough, that's fine. I'll try not to be too loud because I've got a cold, so I don't want to sneeze and blow anyone's ears off. But yeah, we're gonna do Birmingham to Crewe. Talk a little bit about the route. If you've got any questions about that route, just fire them at us. And if we miss them in the chat, there is a pinned comment there for you to go across to one of the posts I did prior to the stream. Just leave any comments there, and then we'll obviously go through that throughout the stream at certain intervals, and just be able to read through that and hopefully clear some things up, and basically create a bit of transparency between the developers and the game, and hopefully clear up some things if you've got any questions about that route. And then we're gonna go all the way up to Crewe, then we're gonna go from Crewe back to Stafford, and then we're going to talk kind of hybrid, both West Coast Main Line, Birmingham, Crewe, and Trent Valley, and then we're going to do Trent Valley from Stafford all the way down to Milton Keynes in Train Simulator Classic, and then talk a little bit about what you can expect from the Train Sim World version of that when it comes out at some point in the next couple of months, next year pretty much. So yeah, without any further ado, are you guys ready to jump into it? And is there anything that you've seen straight off the bat before we jump into any gameplay? Have you seen any questions you want to answer, or do you want to just get straight on with it?
I think most of the questions are about Trent Valley anyway, so...
Oh, yeah. Well, we'll say, if you've got any questions about Trent Valley, you'll have to wait about an hour and a half. Or you can answer them now. It's up to you. But yeah, let's get into it. And yeah, it should be a good bit of fun. So it's pretty much... We're doing Birmingham to Milton Keynes, but the long way round. So yeah, it's going to be a good bit of fun. So yeah, hello to everyone in the chat. We've got 60 people watching. Hope you're all doing absolutely splendid. Shout out to a few people like Philip, Kelly, Mr. Pro, Snocko, Joshua. The goodness gracious, plenty of people in here, and loads of new names as well. I think they've come across from Facebook, and I saw that you guys put a post out as well, didn't you? Yeah, do you have any preference of what we should drive, or should I just pick anything random?
Here into the timetable, man. He can pick.
I'm thinking maybe. If it's something random, I'm thinking something Pendolino, because we're going to be doing the scenario I've downloaded on TSC's of 350. So, could do that.
You can do Pendolino heading north because you don't wait to Wolves very long.
Oh, that's good. That sounds perfect to me. You don't want to wait at Wolverhampton too long. Right, let's have a look. So that's about an hour. Yeah, that works. Yeah, we'll do that one. We'll do that one. We'll do a nice early morning service. Do it in March, maybe April, maybe even May. Why not? Right, let's get on with it. User 66. No, I'm not touching a 66. Not today. Yeah,
just don't add fog for us, please, Richard.
Don't add fog. No, this is no. Well, thankfully, this isn't a preview stream of any kind, so you lot can all know what you're expecting to see. We're just talking about it, but yeah, I won't be using fog to try and hide anything. Don't worry. So a first question someone said, and I'm going to quickly clarify this, that we won't be telling you when things come out because, well, quite frankly, we don't know. So it's a case of you can ask when something's releasing. The answer will just be if it's not on the roadmap. Is that what's the phrase? What's the admin phrase?
I can't remember Alex's favourite. Yeah, it's not on the roadmap. I mean, just to share a bit of like transparency on that. So, no developer actually knows the actual release date until it's gone through certification. So I generally don't know the release date of anything that we're releasing until about a week and a half, 2 weeks, like an actual confirmed date until about a week and a half before it. We obviously have a proposed date that we all, as a team, are working towards, both obviously as a developer and as Dovetail. We obviously aim towards that because Dovetail need to spread their content out. But yeah, we never actually have it firmed up until circa around 7 to 10 days prior anyway. So when people genuinely are asking for dates off of every developer, genuinely no developer will really have it until just before. So
you'll have to forgive myself and Danny, by the way, we've both got colds, so
yeah. Apologies.
Yeah, so there'll be plenty sneezing, coughing. It's the most wonderful time of the year. Flying Southerner says hello to us all. Did we all have a good Christmas? Yeah, I was going to ask that. How was your Christmas, guys?
I have 3 kids, so you can guess.
Oh dear.
Mine was great. I slept in for most of the day, so.
There you go. There you go. I wish I could have. I was chucked out of bed at 7 o'clock. We've got to go to the families. Oh no, I don't want to do that. Not today. So Balls to the Walls has asked any updates on the 805 release date, all that sort of stuff. Obviously, release date, no idea. But yeah, any updates, any sort of information you can provide on the 805. And someone's asked, can you use it on Birmingham to Crewe?
Yeah, okay, I'll take most of that one. So yeah, in terms of 805, we've done pretty much all the work we need to on it. It was a very long drawn-out process for the licensing. Avanti were absolutely fantastic, really helpful, provided so much information. Even provided us with they took us to Birmingham New Street and allowed us on an 805 and an 807.
Oh wow,
nice. They were really helpful some months back. That visit then led to a series of changes, and then we went through a couple of licensing checks with them as well. And oh yeah, they were fantastic. They sent us diagrams of every poster, where every poster should go on the train. So it took a while to get some of the information, but it got there, and we're pretty happy with where the license element is now with Avanti, and they were really good to work with. In terms of the work itself, yeah, so the timetables, obviously, as most people already know, it's primarily for West Coast Mainline South. That's where the scenarios are. That's where the timetable is, because obviously that's out of the routes we've got right now. That's the main functionality for it, Houston to Milton Keynes. But yeah, to answer the question, yes, there is going to be a brand new timetable for Birmingham to Crewe, which will be a modern day timetable. So obviously, I think May 25, Kieran, am I right saying?
Yeah, the summer 25 timetable, I believe.
Yeah, I want to say something like the 19th of May was the date used, wasn't it, or something? So
coming around that, yeah.
You should have picked the 25th of May. I would have been happy. It's my birthday.
Why? Oh, your birthday. Oh, okay. Mine's similar time, but I didn't even think about So yeah, so there's a brand new timetable coming. A few things that includes, obviously, there's a bit of a change around. Transport for Wales now stop at Sandwell and Dudley, whereas the West Mid services heading to Shrewsbury stop at Smethwick Galton Bridge. The Avanti Pendolinos going to Glasgow and Edinburgh now stop at Stafford. I think that also removes the big 15-minute wait at Wolves coming south as well, doesn't it, Kieran? I think.
Yeah,
Right,
it does.
saying?
Yeah.
So yeah, there's quite a few fundamental changes in it. Obviously, the services have gone back to how they used to be pre the kind of mad 2019 timetable. So all your Liverpool services generally terminate at New Street. Obviously, they no longer say Euston on them, because the Euston services terminate at New Street and go back out the East Tunnels, and the Liverpool and Crewe services. Because I think that's the other one as well. I think the Crewe service, the stopper via Stoke, I think that starts at Stafford now as well, over on platform 6. So that's another change as well. So yeah, compared to the 2019 timetable, there's quite a few changes in terms of services. So hopefully, people will get a load of new gameplay out of that as part of it as well. So we are only meant to include one timetable, but we decided to include 2 as part of the 805 pack. So
Nice one. So people have been asking a couple of questions I've seen is what made you choose Birmingham Crew? I know that we covered that in that little interview, but if you want to just provide a little recap on why specifically that, and also why Trent Valley as well, that would be quite a good one.
oh, the difficult questions those. I mean, the Birmingham Crew is I think we in like the previous video, and it was one of those where I'd already started it personally previously, so I'd already started the route from kind of like a previous kind of venture, and we thought it would be a good route. It was 53 miles, which is a pretty standard TSW route. TSW routes are generally 45 to 50 odd miles on average, so it was 11 stations. It wasn't too bad. Obviously, we already had New Street. It was busy, but not overly busy. Not like a Waterloo or a London Bridge kind of thing. We already had the 350 because we didn't want to do a new train. We didn't have the skill set to do a new train. So yeah, from a development point of view, it all worked. It all seemed a really good idea. I was born in the Black Country, so I've got a connection to it. Know a lot of this route quite well. And most of the team that we kind of built were excited to do it. I mean, Kieran's not even anywhere near from this route and was quite excited to do it as well. So I just think as a team, we thought it would be a really good idea, and we thought the community would really like it. That's something that me and Kieran do a lot of. We analyse what the community talk about and want. Believe it, we do generally see most of the comments on most of the channels. And when we announced this, I think the hype this route got really then showed us why it was the right choice. I mean, I personally felt it got more hype than Core. I don't know what you felt, Kieran, but
No, absolutely. I felt the same way. A lot of people talking about it, a lot of excitement around it. So it was good to see that we made the right choice for the route.
I was certainly I think I were a lot more excited for this than the core stuff, in my opinion anyway, but I am a little bit biased because I'm from Birmingham, so I think that's my main reason, but it's also a cracking route. But yeah, that's quite cool. And yeah, like we alluded to it in that previous interview, that it's sort of like you got local connections to it, and it's sort of like, well, you say it's a good starter route. I think it's a very strong starter route in my opinion for, compared to some other starter routes. I think, well, it's kind of like, in my opinion, you've got West Coast Main Line South, which you've got like the busy London end, and then you've got like the kind of like quieter northern end. It's very similar sort of style in the sense that you've got the busier Birmingham bit, and then obviously it gets quieter as you go towards Crewe. One question I did see from Luke was that the West Midlands Railway Class 170s, will they be in the new timetable for the 805? Because obviously because it's modern day, and I don't think they're still ran now. Is that right? I'm not too sure.
yeah. So we tried to make a couple of decisions on Trent Valley as well. same as the modern day timetables for Birmingham to Crewe, and West Coast Main Line South as well. So, for example, on the modern day timetable for Birmingham to Crewe, you wouldn't see 323s doing the cross city services through New Street.
Yeah.
But for me to remove that removes a huge amount of AI. There's no. People need to bear in mind, we didn't start these projects a few weeks ago. For example, the 805 project started about March. Trent Valley started in July. So these projects started a long time ago. There's no current plans that we're aware of to cover some of the missing stock that's on this route at the minute, such as 196, as you were just alluding to with the 170 there, the 197s, which are slowly going to come in and take over. I mean, we don't even have the 158s for Transport for Wales. You generally see 730s operating the Wolverhampton Walsall services now. Again, there's no 730 currently in the pipeline to do those as well. So we kind of took this decision as to what's out there. When we release this, what's out there, and do we go and remove a load of things? Do we make it completely realistic and remove anything that shouldn't be there anymore, or do we try and keep things? So we try to meet in a bit of mid-ground. If we remove all of the stoppers between Wolverhampton and Walsall, then it would really remove a good chunk of services from this section. And again, with the 170s, if we remove the 170s doing the Shrewsbury services, again it would remove a big chunk of services on this stretch of the line, which I think a lot of people like this certain section. Wolverhampton to Birmingham is probably one of the more favoured sections from the comments I've seen. I know this is obviously where some of the blurred issues we've had have mainly occurred, but in terms of gameplay, this is where the big gameplay is. So yeah, we have kept a few trains in that you wouldn't necessarily see now to try and keep a bit of realism. But what it does mean is in the future, it doesn't mean that we can't swap those out. If trains do come along, we've got no problem swapping them out in the future to update it. But obviously, as of now, a lot of those trains, there's still a bunch of trains still missing from this route. So
Yeah,
I think that answers it, Richard.
You make a good point there, because there's a similar thing that's been done on the Cardiff City network, where if you go through the layer list, it says like class, whatever it is, 2 Summit Revert, like, I don't know the class numbers, but there's like loads of different types of diesel unit that would operate like Transport for Wales. I think it's 231 or something like that, like the Flirt stuff and whatever it is. That's all like included in the layer list. Like, if it ever happened, which is like obviously no one knows, sort of like you might as well put it in there for the potential of it coming to the game and being replaceable, then not including it, because then people will be like, well, it's a dead timetable. So I think you're right in saying that, and I think I'd like to hope, chat, you lot agree with, although it's a slightly unrealistic sort of like slightly unrealistic for the actual timetable era, let's say, the fact that you've still got playable services, you're not losing out. If anything, it's just kind of like, well, it is what it is. Not, I personally think that's great that you've got more playable things, and I'd be very sad to see I was very sad to see the 170s go off this line. So to still see them there will make me feel happy. Someone's saying, can you put an SD40 on it? No, I don't think that's realistic at all. SD40 really isn't realistic at all for a British line. Makes a lot of doors. What other questions have we got? You've left a funny question on the post, Southerner. I'll have a little look in a second. Once the 805 comes out, will the 350s from Birmingham to Crewe go onto the West Coast Main Line South?
Yes, so what we've tried to do across all of the timetables is use all the 350s. So the 350-1 from West Coast Main Line South is obviously in the correct livery to a degree, obviously because of licensing issues. So the 350-1 from West Coast Main Line South is the more correct version than what we've got, because we've got it in the XLM livery, which obviously they are no longer in that livery. And then obviously we've got the 350-2 in its kind of temporary livery, not the XLM one, and then the 350-3 in its correct modern day L&R livery. And then obviously Trent Valley then has the 350-4, which will also be in the in the correct livery. So, yeah, across all of the timetables. So with the 805, you're going to get a modern day West Coast Main Line South, and a Birmingham to Crewe, and Trent Valley, you're going to get a modern day Trent Valley timetable. So the idea is that they all tie in together. And yes, we'll be using the -1 from West Coast Main Line South, the -2 and -3 from Birmingham to Crewe, and then the -4 from Trent Valley. So that's the idea. So if you don't own all of the products, it's not going to ruin it completely, kind of thing. So if you don't own Birmingham to Crewe, but you brought Trent Valley, you'd get half the 350 services, because you'd be getting the -1 and the -4s. So it's kind of like that. You don't have to own everything, but obviously if you own it all, then you get all the services. So we try to spread it out a bit more, rather than just pinpoint it on one specific DLC, like saying you had to have Birmingham to Crewe and you had to have Trent Valley to get all the services. So we tried to spread it across, because we appreciate some people may have West Coast Main Line South and want to do the Euston to Crewe run and don't have Birmingham to Crewe. So yeah, so yeah, they'll appear across all three, Richie.
Nice one, cool. Let's have a look what else has been said. Someone said about bugs. I mean, obviously there'll probably be questions about like updates and stuff. So is there sort of like anything that's been reported that's been sort of worked on in terms of this route, like updates and fixes and things, or have most of the things been ironed out now?
So I mean, I'll let Kieran go in specifics about bugs in a sec. So obviously just so people know the process of how it works. So a lot of people obviously sit there and say, oh well, it's been out 2 months now, why haven't we got these fixed? It's not that simple. A lot of the things that people saw the fixes for in the first few days after release, in the first, I think it was about a week and a half after, we did that literally around release day. So as we saw the issues with Xbox come in, we obviously dealt with those there and then. And then we've submitted obviously a further patch. Again, that was very much emergency style stuff. That was obviously things with the timetable, etc., which Kieran will go into a bit more in a minute. It was kind of like where people were obviously couldn't drive because we were having AI SPADs, which hadn't been picked up during testing. That was obviously game critical, so we wanted to get those fixes out. So the real big critical fixes, which was stopping people from playing the game, we got all those out, got them through testing, and obviously got them released in November. Actually, so I think it started December. That came out, but again, a lot of those fixes were done actually technically in October. So it's not a 2-minute process. So we've already submitted further fixes for textures on the 350, hoping to further help with the texture issues that people have had. We've been able to kind of, from our testing, kind of half the memory pool on our class 350s, so we're hoping that helps as well. But then even then from there, there's then further. So obviously everything that people raised, that then obviously gets put into kind of like a list of things for us to look at, and we've now got that as a list to go through, and we've started going through it. I know Kieran's already done a lot of hard work on that list going through. So yeah, there's kind of one big patch left to come to kind of mop everything up in the new year. Obviously we've got to complete all those and then get them through testing as well. So it isn't going to be January. It's probably more likely going to be kind of February kind of time really, that we try and get that through. But I mean, Kieran will probably be able to talk a bit more through those than me.
Yeah, I mean, well, you said it pretty well, to be honest. I mean, the next patch, obviously, we want to make sure we've gone through everything that we can do, smoothing things out, and so we obviously get that information from DTG. They've been really fantastic. Their community team have been collating everyone's feedback. We obviously look on forums, Discord, and all that sort of stuff as well, to see what people are saying or what issues they're having, and then we'll collate that and we'll schedule that into what will be obviously the next patch, which obviously we want to get out as soon as possible, but vitally as well, we want to make sure it's well tested, and everyone is happy. We're happy, DTG's happy, so that when it goes out, everyone across all platforms can have, you know, the most ideal experience possible. We know that texture blurring is still being a big one at the front of obviously people's minds. The team have done a fantastic job of identifying some areas that we could look to improve the optimization a little bit more to reduce the texture blurring. In an ideal world, it would eliminate it altogether. But obviously, as we continue to go through that process, we'll obviously, it's something that we'll keep an eye on. We are very keen to get to the bottom of that. We know, you know, console users especially really don't like texture blurring. I totally understand why. So yeah, and obviously as Danny mentioned, and you know, another big part of that was the 350 optimizations. So there's a lot, but then there's smaller things as well. You know, little bits of, you know, potential scenery elements or weird quirks with the passengers. So there's all sorts that we're looking into to roll into this next patch. And obviously we would very much like to get that out as quick as possible. We have got our own internal testing team as well. So essentially, you know, to strengthen the testing process as much as possible. So now there's obviously, you've got the beta team for DTG, you've got the QA team for DTG, and then we've got our own internal QA team. And the combined effort of all three has really helped us identify things, and you know, especially like you're going through Trent Valley at the moment. You know, the 805, which is roughly, you know, this team came on fairly recently, in the last month or so, and they've been fantastic. Are identifying a lot of things, whether it's, you know, been them or whether it's been DTG QA and or beta team. So there's been a huge push to make sure that not only do we get the fixes, you know, the remaining fixes for Birmingham Crew done, that we also make sure that every release going forward is as smooth as possible. You know, we learned a lot of lessons from Birmingham Crew, and hopefully, you know, those results will start to really show very soon. So yeah,
nice one. I see there's plenty of questions coming in, peeps. Just a side note on questions. I will try and get to as many as possible, but like I said at the start, if you've got any specific questions and I've not read it 2 or 3 times, then just pop it on the post, and I'm gonna get to it very soon. But a couple of questions that I can see. One for me. No face cam tonight. No, not tonight. The stream's not about, you know, me. It's about talking about this route and talking about the future of all aboard stuff. So I didn't want to put a face cam. I'm also really ill, and the last face cam I did, I was snotting everywhere, and I didn't really want to be blowing my nose on camera again. So that's why I'm not. Another one I saw is, do you plan to make any Great Western Railway routes, or is it just West Coast Main Line? I think that's if it's not on the roadmap question answer, I think.
Yeah, well, listen, we've got no current plans. Let me, you know, let's make that clear. So we are working with a couple of other train operating companies at the minute on future routes. I mean, we literally plan that far ahead. Like we're planning like 2 years ahead kind of thing on content. Working very closely with Dovetail, with some of their partners as well. Very recently, been working with them. We've been able to bring in, you know, hopefully some new talks as well, 1 or 2 new ones. So hopefully in the future, you might see some new talks as well.
Leaks.
So
no leaks to
no leaks. I'm not saying anything, but obviously, yeah, who? That's what I'm not going to answer. So, and obviously a lot of companies are obviously going up because obviously what's happening with GBR, etc. You know, things are changing there as well in terms of licensing as well. But no, we have no plans to do a GWR route at current. One of our testers is a big supporter of us doing something GWR, and she always pushes us to try and do something. But yeah, she's not quite got her way with us yet on that one. But no, nothing nothing planned.
The chat is going absolutely mad for new talks. Or you've whet the appetite there. Everyone's like, who, where, when? Oh, I like this. Someone said, would 2026 be too early for for the Trent Valley route? I don't imagine so.
I mean, again, we don't have a date of where it's being released. We obviously want it to be 2026. We don't want it to be. People have seen that we get through things. We only started in November, December. We're only 13 months old as a business. So yeah, we get through them decently, but obviously we've got a lot of lessons to learn after that first route as well. And obviously we're doing a longer route, a few less stations, but we're doing a longer route. It's got its own complications, Trent Valley, but yeah, listen, we absolutely are aiming for 2026, where in that falls, it's I don't have any other information yet on that, so
Keep an eye on the roadmap.
Oh yeah, keep it on the roadmap. If it's not on the roadmap, I think at the minute it's in the further down the tracks, I think. So take that as you will, peeps. I've got a couple of questions here, so I have a few questions. Popular routes usually get selected, but do less popular routes also sell well or are viable? Like, for example, do we ever see Shrewsbury to Wolverhampton, which is relatively unrequested? I mean, Pie Train, from my personal standpoint, that is not an unrequested section of line at all, because I would love to see that.
I don't think that's I've seen that a number of times in suggestions. Yeah, we never saw it. The one thing I would say is we quite like doing, and maybe Birmingham Crew is not a good example, but our plans are to try and stay away from TSC related routes. I think that's one of the comments that we've seen circulated quite a bit, that at times it's very much, I mean, some people actually think that you can just copy and paste from Trains in Classic into Trains in World. You absolutely can't do that. Let me just make that clear now. So when, for example, Brighton Main Line, we had it on Trains in Classic, we've got it on Trains in World. It is a brand new product entirely.
Well, it's a different engine. It's a complete different game engine for a start.
Yeah, the way it all works, it is just totally different, so you just can't do that. But where possible, we're going to try and do things that you haven't seen in Trains in Classic, where we can. So, obviously Birmingham Crew existed through for a route, obviously on Trains in Classic with ATS, and obviously what we've done with Trent Valley is a little bit different. We've obviously done a little bit different to what Thomson Interactive did with Trent Valley. But yeah, going forward, post that, yeah, we've got a lot of the kind of route ideas we've got, and a lot of the conversations we have with DTG are generally about routes that don't necessarily exist out there just yet. So
the best thing is, if you want a certain route, ask it, and if it's not been asked for before, then all the board are going to do it. That's what you got to do in the forums. But no, I like that sort of approach to, because I do see a lot of comments of people saying like, they just port it across from Train Sim Classic or whatever else, and I've seen that before. Southern has asked, are all the board looking for any more beta testers? Ooh, that's a good question. Yeah, are you looking for any more beta people, any more testers?
So we do. Me and Kieran disagree on this subject. So beta testing is a real niche art form. Obviously, most beta testers, it's unpaid, so you obviously you choose your hours, you do what you want to do, and it's a difficult one really, because trying to find beta testers that will do what you need them to do is not always easy, and we've gone through a couple that maybe haven't quite done what we needed them to do. We've got a couple in our team right now who are absolutely fantastic, and if I could replicate that team by about 3 times the size, then I would. But the problem is, to bring in beta testers is a lot of work, and not just for us, but for DTG also. You have to bear in mind we have to. They have to go through NDA process. They go through kind of work. We have to tell them everything that we're doing. They get access to a lot of our stuff. We then have to get them set up with the development engine. They get obviously all the keys for everything to work, and there's a lot of work from Kieran deals with most of it on our side, and obviously the DCG third party team as well deal with it. So bringing people in and then it just doesn't work out and they leave. It's a real pain for everybody, and so trying to find the right beta tester is not easy at all. So we are potentially looking for beta testers in the new year, but yeah, the criteria is going to be extremely specific. We don't have a massive beta team. I think there's 4 at the minute, Kieran.
Hang on, let me. Yeah, 4.
So we genuinely don't go very big. I think we've gone to 6 max so far, and let me put it this way, Richie. I want to know my beta testers personally. I don't just want names in a hat. I want to know them. I want to know what they can bring. And at the minute, the beta testers we've got left in our team all bring something very specific. And as soon as they don't, we don't stick around. So the answer is kind of, if you are interested, there is a contact email on the website, or just message myself or Kieran if you've got that Discord. So
of course, the caveat that if you are genuinely interested in, you're not just trying to get don't be annoying and just spam them with "I want to be a beta tester." Obviously, if you've got experience in beta testing or anything like that, then you obviously take that sort of take that as you will if you're gonna get in touch. So, is it possible for the West Coast Main Line Birmingham crew to ever receive an expansion to Liverpool Lime Street? I'm going to say no, but I don't know. Is there any plans for an expansion?
It's probably a good time to, because I've seen quite a few questions when it comes to Trent Valley on this one as well, about why we didn't build off Euston, Milton Keynes. So the short answer is, to Birmingham crew, no. The answer will be no. We won't be extending it to Liverpool. And obviously, to sell the point as to why. So the Euston to Milton Keynes is a good example. Why didn't we build off it? We didn't build off it because it's not our route. And if we were to go and build off that, then people would never buy Euston, Milton Keynes, and obviously that's a DTG product, and that would then be DTG losing sales. Also, people are talking about performance, and obviously the impact we had on Birmingham to crew. One of the big things, which I know Matt and Alex spoke about at length a few weeks ago on one of the Q&As, which were really good in December, is obviously a problem they've come to the realisation of, is that trains are always pulling memory, some kind of texture memory, even when they're not kind of within the player's immediate game. So they come in and the memory never leaves. So the problem is you're playing for so long, eventually you get to a point where the memory pool is that much because there's been that many trains come in. So the problem we've had is then doing a route that big as well. It's untested at the minute. If it was a quieter route, then possibly you could start going into the 100 odd plus miles, or if you do in a slightly different era, just trains do it really well with obviously the mid 80s. It's slightly quieter in terms of timetable, so they can get away with a little bit more length, etc. Than what you would do on, say, Euston, Milton Keynes, which is a very busy modern day stretch. I think Network Rail classify it as in essence full. That section of network now, there's 4 gaps in the timetable throughout the day, which I think even Lumo have taken some of those now as part of their services. So that's why, really, Richie. It's to do with other products, really. So Euston, Milton Keynes is our product, so that's why we can't build off it, because we'd be basically taking somebody else's product. Again, it's why we would never do north of Crewe to Liverpool, because Just Trains have got Crewe to Preston. And so yes, it's mid 80s, and yes, we would be allowed to do it because it's different eras, but at the same time it's also a bit of respect. That's Just Trains products. They've got that section, and I know it splits off obviously north of Acton Bridge, but that's still kind of their section, and I'd never want to tread on their toes to kind of do that all the way up to Liverpool as well. So yeah, people obviously just need to bear in mind as well that obviously as third parties, and obviously Dovetail as well, we're all kind of around each other, and we all need to make sure that each each other's business isn't affected as well. So I don't want to go and start affecting just trains' sales because I go and take the set to Liverpool. But that's not fair. So yeah, that's why we'll never build off up towards Liverpool, and it's why we haven't built off other routes, and why you can't just build off, because you would in essence destroy it. So
Andrew, you say you'd like to see Crewe. Well, theoretically, Crewe is in 2 separate routes, soon to be 4, isn't it? Something like that, isn't it? So, I mean, obviously, Crewe's in this route, and we're going to be going to Crewe in around. We'll be there in around about 20 minutes if you want to see Crewe. It's also in Spirit of Steam, which of course is free at the moment, and also layers into this, doesn't it? Spirit of Steam does a rail tour. Is that right?
Yes, I believe it does, yes.
So obviously you'll get Crewe in that one, and then obviously you'll get. Is it the same? Well, this is what I was going to ask between Crewe and Stafford, but is it the same sort of section of line, or has there been any changes between the 2 routes in terms of Crewe itself, or is the model fundamentally the same? I would imagine it.
Yeah, so on Trent Valley, it's generally we'll when we go through Trent Valley, we'll explain a bit more about Trent Valley, why we chose it, why did we keep Stafford to Crewe, why did we do Rugby to Milton Keynes, the infamous question that everybody's got: why haven't we done the Northampton loop?
There you go.
Yeah, we'll cover all of those. But yeah, in essence, it's the same stretch of line. To fundamentally answer that one very quickly, we're very aware that a lot of services don't stop at Stafford. So if we had done the TSC version, Stafford to Rugby, you would have ended up with a lot of services not having to make a lot of full stops basically at Stafford to make it workable.
I think one of the big things as well is that you've done it differently to where West Coast Main Line South. A lot of people complain that a lot of the Pendolino services weren't playable because Oh, have I been stung? I think I've been stung in the Pendolino. Yeah, I've been stung. It's alright. So a lot of people said that the Pendolino services, because they didn't stop at Milton Keynes, they didn't get as much playability. So I think one thing, and we'll come on to this, is obviously, like you mentioned, a lot of Pendolinos, and I don't know about the 805s or the 807s, but they don't stop at Stafford, they go straight through. So I suppose it's to increase the playable amount of services, instead of just seeing it all as AI and kind of, you'll see them, but you won't be able to get in them.
I believe most of the 805s now stop Stafford and Crewe, which is why obviously there's a playability on the Birmingham to Crewe section.
Yeah, right.
Of the lines of 805. I mean, the only fundamental changes we've made is we've got obviously had a lot of conversation with Avanti. We obviously, one of our testers is has a lot to do with Avanti as well, and so we've been able to they've been able to help us a lot in terms of kind of correct boards, signs, etc. at stations, positions of stop car markers. So we have, for example, been able to get much more accurate in terms of stop car markers at Crewe. That was a big one. There was a bit of we had some source pictures, but we didn't have enough really. So that's probably one of the biggest things. You've obviously got the signs at Crewe as well, which say about changing power to diesel or changing to electric. So things like they've been added. We're trying to make a few more optimizations as well between Stafford and Crewe, mainly around Stafford at the minute as well. But yeah, fundamentally, if you're driving it, I think the only big change from my memory, from a track perspective, is I think on this route, I think the 60-mile-an-hour points south of Crewe were far too sharp, and if you actually go over them at 60 miles an hour, it's far too fast. So we did remove those points and relay them to suit the 60 miles an hour.
Just a quick side note as well, just going through Stafford now, and I've flown down to where the Trent Valley would spur off. So it spurs off, I need to get my directions right now, out from the south of Stafford. It goes east, is that the way it goes? Something like that. Anyway, you'll see it on screen in about 20 seconds, but peeps, that's the way the Trent Valley goes, which... Oh, there was just a Pendolino going down it as I spawned back into my Pendolino.
I think you're about to get stung by Tass, by the way, Richie.
Oh, I think I did. That's fine. It's all right.
But yeah, that section there you go. That is the Trent Valley section of the line. So.
Someone's asked who am I with. This is All Aboard Studios, who obviously made this route and they're making the upcoming Trent Valley route. Any plans to have a timetable set in the 1990s or the 2000s? That's a good question.
Obviously, I can answer that. I can answer that very clearly.
Yeah.
No.
No. I don't imagine why you'd want, because all the stock that's. I think for one of the first times.
There is no stock, is there? There is absolutely no stock for it at all, really. So.
No, and that's the thing. A lot of people, like, over the last couple of prior to these sorts of routes coming out, it's sort of like we've not had a lot of modern UK stock. It's been quite like a lot of terminus stations have been quite quiet. Obviously, that was a big complaint about Birmingham New Street when it first came out, and obviously things like Glossop Line or whatever else. But now, obviously, we have a lot of modern stock, so modern timetables are just the best way to go. And I feel like modern timetables are actually just favoured by people anyway. Someone said there was another question.
Just add to that as well. We play to our strengths, and our strengths is very much modern day stuff.
Yeah.
You know, you've already got the likes of JT that do more backdated stuff. So even if the stock was there, we would still probably stick to modern. It's where our strengths are at as a team. So
I prefer modern because it kind of like, I think one thing I like about the game itself is being able to drive something that I could go on in real life. Obviously not drive it, but obviously be a passenger on in real life, and something that's backdated a bit more difficult unless it's like a heritage rail line. But then a lot of people will disagree with me and say they want more steam trains, and then that's when I'll stay quiet because I'm no good at steam trains. But I know a lot of people would like to see steam trains. Someone's asked a question. Great Western's asked a question about guard mode. Will it be looked at on this route because it's kind of unplayable at the minute? What main thing are you experiencing? AI drive off without you. AI drive off without you. Can it be that it just doesn't work properly? So basically, have you found any issues with guard mode, and if so, is there any plans to fix it?
We have seen a few people post about it online. Not loads. It's something that we are investigating to see if there is a solution at our end. We're investigating at the moment. If there is something that we can do to fix it, then absolutely it's something that we will do and roll into that same patch that obviously we're aiming for after the new year. But we'll just have to wait and see at the moment. But I do know that people have raised it online, so we are looking into it.
Joshua, your question about Milton Keynes to Birmingham via Northampton will be answered, and the reason why it's not being done will be answered when we get onto that section of line in around about an hour's time. Because I think you have got an answer for that, haven't you guys?
Well, I think his actual question is, do we have any plans after this to do Milton Keynes to Birmingham, which is the missing section, if you want, of the West Coast main line? And my answer is no, we have no plans.
I think it makes sense for it to be a separate route though, because it's quite a hefty bit of route because there's a lot of stations on it. And I think one thing that people forget to remember is that with routes, it's like the more stations it is, the more dev time it takes. So if you've got like a 100-mile route with 50 stations on it, it's kind of impractical. It's possible, but it'll take longer, and also, you know, gigabyte size and optimization or whatever. Whereas like a longer route is possible because it has fewer stations. I think is that the sort of like justification for Trent Valley, because it's got a fair few stations, but it's not as, I think it's got has it got less stations on that than the Birmingham Coventry Northampton section.
Yeah, Kieran said it. Kieran said it already. Playing to strengths, and that's what we try and do. So, you know, we don't have huge array of station modelers. They are really hard to come by, good ones. You know, we've got one or two who are good, and who are really, you know, we've got one who's really good, who's worked on TSW stuff for a few years. That the problem is one or two is not going to build you 20 odd stations in 6, 7, 8 months. And then we've got our main scenery artist. You know, our main scenery artist, though, the difference is he can go and do, you know, 80, 90 miles in 6 months. So it's all about trying to find the balance. If I go for a route that's 30 miles but 25 stations, my team is just totally imbalanced for that. So it's about trying to find the right balance as well. So we did look at Birmingham, Milton Keynes. I may as well answer it, Richie, because people keep asking the question. So,
Mhm.
you know, for us, that was too similar to Birmingham Crew. The Birmingham's Coventry section is very similar to the Birmingham Wolverhampton Stafford
Mhm.
section, and then obviously beyond there by Rugby down to Milton Keynes, very similar to the Stafford Crew. So we kind of felt like it was very similar in terms of gameplay, in terms of the 350 stoppers, the 390s, stopping at a couple of stations, getting a bit of speed, but then slowing back down. We thought Trent Valley was totally different. You know, you might start I think you start a service at Crewe. You know, some of them you start a service at Crewe, you don't stop till Milton Keynes. You drive for an hour and 7 minutes,
Oh.
at 100 plus miles an hour, which for some people may be boring. For some people want to do that. There are other services where you may stop at Lichfield and Tamworth. There are some services you might stop at, you know, Nuneaton or Stafford. So you've got a variation of stopping patterns. You've then got your 350s, which is a good hour and a half, hour and 40-minute jaunt all the way from Milton Keynes to Crewe. Your freight from Durft all the way up to Crewe. I think you did a run on that, didn't you, Kieran, the other day, and loved every minute of the 2 hours that I think that took. So you know, it's there's a lot. We just felt there was a lot more variation. It was different. We felt if we did Birmingham Milton Keynes, it was too similar to Birmingham, to Crewe, whereas we felt Trent Valley offered that something a bit different, really. So
Nice one. So I've seen plenty of questions coming through about Trent Valley. We'll obviously answer those when we get onto that section, because I think it'll be really really important to obviously, like, because I'm planning to do a stopper service on a scenario I've got. So we'll stop at each station and we'll be able to talk a little bit about it. So George, your question about Tamworth. I mean, WLTE, we could probably answer that one. Will you be able to route hop from West Coast Mainline South to Trent Valley, and I think also route hop at Lichfield, Trent Valley? Will that all be there?
yeah, Milton Keynes, Lichfield, Trent Valley, Stafford, and Crewe will be the four that we'll be able to hop at on Trent Valley. So I've seen one question actually for I think it was Birmingham to Crewe. It was about the speeds between Stafford and Crewe. Someone asked,
Yeah.
we're going to up them to 125. Yes, that's the speeds are correct at 110. So, I can't think what they are again now, but there is no MU speed between Stafford and Crewe. Wolverhampton to Stafford is the only section of the line where the voyages get up to full max speed, 125 miles an hour.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, there is no. There is new plans. Obviously, as the 805, 807s coming in, for new MU speeds. We haven't looked at the section between Stafford and Crewe as part of that, but we have included all of that on the Trent Valley lines, because I believe they haven't already. They're very much due to come into operation any day now, those new speeds, which obviously help increase the 805 and 807 speeds along the route more than anything.
I've just saw a really funny question. Someone's asked, have correctly simulated sandwiches being implemented on board? I'm guessing, is there a buffet section on the 805s or 807s? I don't actually know.
There's a shop.
There's a shop.
Shop
Sandwiches
on board, so yeah. It's closed though, unfortunately.
It's closed.
So.
No, you can't buy any sandwiches.
Just going back to the route hop thing real quick.
Yeah,
just reading that question. So I think they were meaning route hopping from West Coast Main Line South to Trent Valley. Obviously, that's not our route. So it's something that we absolutely would love to do. We'll obviously, I think DTG share the same sentiment when they were going through it on season reveals. So whether it'll be in immediately on whenever Trent Valley falls in terms of release, don't know yet, but we'll see. In terms of from our end route hopping to other routes, that will be there for release. So
that'll be ditto for Trent Valley on Birmingham Cross City, because that's also not your route, is it? That's a dovetail route.
Yeah. I was going to say that it's obviously Kieran's point. We need a bit of obviously help from DTG. They need to do that work in order to put that in. No, obviously they've been a big fan of selling being able to drive all the way from Euston to Carlisle with the diagrams they showed.
Yeah.
So I'd imagine that they'd be keen to put it in for the work that it takes. I can't see why they wouldn't. Obviously, we're not aware of them doing it just yet, but as Kieran said, it's not one for us too. I've just picked one up as well, Richie, about obviously this to do the 805 timetables on West Coast Mainline South. Someone's asked whether we're actually going to do some of the fixes on West Coast Mainline South, which obviously ties into that point nicely. It's not our route, so I think someone's asked about some flying trees above the station. Again, if you've got flying trees, I'm going to be honest, anybody that ever points at flying trees, it is not a dev issue, it's not a route issue. I think someone has pointed out the fix for it a number of times. It's not something, if we go into the editor, it's not there. Kieran will probably know what it is, being Mr. Technical, but so yeah, it's not an issue that the devs can sort. But also, obviously, that's not our route, so no, we won't be carrying out any updates to the actual route of West Coast Mainline South. We're purely layering a timetable onto it. So
Dusty Customs asks, how far along in development is the 805? Are we likely to see it early 2026, or is it going to be released closer to the Trent Valley? Again, I think that's if it's on the roadmap question, but yeah, how far in development is the 805? Is it something that can be expected soon? I think it's in the 0 to 3 months, isn't it?
Yeah, it's been there. It's been there a while as well. We've obviously had a number of releases in the last few weeks from people, and obviously there's quite a bit in that 0 to 3 months now as well. So yeah, it shouldn't be too long. It shouldn't be much longer really. So yeah, expect an update on it on the next roadmap that DTG do, which I don't think is until the start of February. So you never really tend to see too much happen during January.
Yeah, people are still getting back to it, aren't they? Just a quick shout out to everyone that's come in, by the way. 80 people watching, so thank you all for coming in. And yeah, of course, if you're just popping by and you've not saw any certain questions, or you've got anything to ask, obviously feel free to post it. Or if you've put a question and we've missed it, pop it in the post. I'm gonna have a little look in at the post in a second once we get into crew, and pretty much go for the questions there. So I won't be looking at the chat for a moment, but yeah, just of course, in terms of other stuff, if you want to find out any information about any dev updates or anything like that, do you guys post regular articles and stuff on your website and that? Because I've popped a link to it in the description. So if is there any sort of information people can sort of refer to there if needed?
We don't post too many articles.
Yeah.
So we try not to get involved in too much of the conversations on Discord. Yeah, I think we've obviously got a contact email on our website. If people really do want to get in touch, I'd advise doing it that way. There's obviously a feedback section on the Discord page for Dovetail as well. That is where they collate everything and put it together, and obviously that then comes over to us. It's don't think it's going to go up and the next day it makes it to us. It certainly is nowhere near that quick. So yeah, you can either use the contact email on our website or use the feedback elements. So
yeah, question about the 807. So will the 807 be laid onto the West Coast Mainline South? And then also a bolt-on question from myself. Will that then layer onto Birmingham crew in the newer timetable?
Yes.
Cool. Has anyone noticed that the intermediate carriages on the 9-car Pendolinos are the wrong way round? I haven't, but I'm not sure. Are we a 9-car? I don't think so. 1, 2. Which one's a 9-car? Is it -0 or -1?
-0.
-0. What are we? -0. Is it the wrong way round? I don't know. I don't know that one, Luke, unfortunately. I would imagine it should be the right way around. Are they meant to be like a London facing or something?
So first class is meant to be obviously pointing towards London, standard class towards Scotland. Not too sure what they mean by the wrong way around.
Yeah.
There was an issue pointed out on release, which, to my knowledge, is fixed now. So. All I can say is if you've still got that issue, use the feedback thread on Discord or feedback post on the forums. Highlight the service. Obviously, what platform you're on and stuff like that as well. So then we can have a look to see if potentially one's been missed or if you've just not got the update for whatever reason. So yeah, that would be the best advice there. To my knowledge, that was an issue that was fixed quite early on.
Just a side note as well, if there's any issues with the Pendolino itself, any consist errors or whatever, it's not their train. So it's a Dovetail train. So obviously if there's anything wrong with that, then it's one for the Dovetail forums in the Discord. Also, Luke, just pay attention to if you've got any custom liveries installed from the Creators Club, because it might be showing you the wrong liveries, or it might be like a livery that's done or whatever. You know, that might be work, because I don't think anyone else has mentioned that, or no one else has brought it up since bringing it up. So it might be worth just checking if you've got a Creators Club livery or any Timetable mods or something that might be just doing that. But yeah, like I say, the Pendolino is fundamentally it's not their train. So if there's any issue with it, it's yeah. I think I've just checked the first class is the London way around, so it's right as far as I'm aware. But yeah, we're just pulling into crew. I'll stop here and have a little fly around because I think Andrew wanted to see crew, and then we'll hop back into another train.
Just going back to the floating trees thing, because it's something that I see it gets brought up all the time. The technical thing is, if you on PC you can modify what's called an engine.ini file, and on that you can put various different things in, and one of them is it's like view distance, and that essentially is what triggers being able to see those floating trees. None of our not just us, but it happens on other routes as well. When you go in the editor, and even when you tweak those settings, you don't see them. So, as obviously Danny mentioned before, it's not something that we can fix. It's one of those things. When you modify something yourself, ultimately it's the responsibility of yourself to then look to fix that, because you're technically modding the game. Obviously, if it had been the case of you hadn't changed anything, you're still getting them, and we could see them in the editor, then obviously, yeah, then that's a bug, and we would look to fix that. But yeah, so if you ever change things in that particular file, and then you start to get issues and other things happening, go back through what you've changed and take stuff out one by one until the problem resolves itself. I've seen people post about crashes and stuff, and it turns out they're using mods, like visual enhancements and stuff like that. So again, those are things that can all have an impact. Not just on our route, on any route in TSW. So before whether you post it on the feedback or you report it as a bug or whatever, if you've got mods installed, go through that mod list first, and then if you're still getting that issue after you've taken the mods out, then absolutely post it. Either DTG's community team will pick it up, or if it's for one of our stuff, we'll probably see it as well. So yeah, hopefully that gives a little bit more information on that.
Nice one. Cool. Right. Just done that service, so I'm now hopping into crew and going back. Am I at crew? Can't remember. This looks like crew to me. Yeah, it's crew. Yeah, so I've hopped back into crew. I'm going to go back southbound towards Stafford. I'm going to have a little look at that post now and see what questions. Have you guys been looking at that and the chat as well? Because I may repeat some of the questions you've already seen.
So just popping trees and floating trees, obviously two different things. The popping trees is something absolutely we can look at. It's obviously down to your log distances and stuff like that. The problem is obviously changing that could then have a negative experience on console, for example. So yeah, it's something that does bother me a lot. Popping trees. It's something that obviously we can definitely look at and see if there's anything that we can do. But obviously we obviously need to be mindful that we're not impacting performance on other platforms, or even for PC. That's the difficult one because there's such a wide range of specs. So I do believe, though, someone found a way to actually reduce the popping on the trees by modifying something in the engine.ini. I remember using it back in like TSW4, so whether that's still something that exists, I don't know, but it is something that I would absolutely love to see resolved just in TSW in general. I don't know if some of the newer routes for like Riviera or whatever, if they made any changes in that regard and reduced that. So if there's any routes where you have noticed that the popping of the trees is a lot less severe, throw it our way what route you're on. If it was the DTG route especially, then we can ask DTG to have a look at that and see if we can make changes to improve that.
Cool. So I accidentally unmuted my laptop there. If you heard that. So because we're at crew, so referring to what we were talking about earlier, differences between the Trent Valley and the Birmingham crew versions of crew, are they fundamentally going to be the same? Is there any differences in and around the crew area? Can you still go into things like Basford Hall and things like that?
Yeah, so I mean the crew area as a whole is fundamentally the same. Obviously, when we need to, obviously looking at any more optimizations from Birmingham crew, that will obviously carry over to Trent Valley for the career area as well, if we need to make any. Fundamentally, though, it will be the same area, the same station, obviously the same track layout, the same areas that you can access. Nothing will really change there. In terms of making any additions to the area, obviously we need to just be mindful about performance again. So I think, based off my very recent memory, there's not anything changing in terms of that aspect. I think obviously Danny mentioned about some newer signage in terms of like with the stop car markers and the power mode changeover signs and stuff like that. So there's little things here and there, but ultimately it's the same.
YLUQ is asking about screenshots for support assistance. I've not seen your string of comments, but are you referring to just general issues or something like specific to the route? If you could just clarify that, please, and then I can point you in the right direction. Just going to the questions on the post. So I'm just going to go in no particular order. Someone's asked me if I'm going to be playing the game. Someone says I'm gonna. Oh, good! I can return to whining about the APT not being included. Oh dear. We don't talk about the APT, Luke.
Well, again, it goes back to making additions around crew. Crew is already a jam-packed area, and adding another model that realistically you're not really going to be able to see unless you go right to the end of the northbound platforms at crew. It'd be a waste of resource to really add it. If we were doing a route, well, for example, if we were doing crew to Preston, then yeah, obviously it would have made sense to include that in the Heritage Centre and stuff like that. But because our routes, both Birmingham crew and obviously Trent Valley are south facing, it just doesn't really make much sense. And we've had a lot of we've had a bit of a nightmare, obviously trying to make sure that we get the performance to be the best it can be at crew. So yeah, we don't really want to add anything else. So sorry to be the bearer of bad news there, but there's at least to my knowledge, when Danny comes back, he might correct me and might say something different. I don't think he will, but there's no plans to include the APT or the Heritage Centre.
I've only just realised Danny's gone. Where's he gone?
He's just switching computers. He'll be back, yeah.
Would it be possible to do a segment in Conductor Mode and perhaps use it as an opportunity to walk around the trains and stations? I'm guessing that's a question for me. Binary run. I'm just going to stick to driving for now, just as we can talk about things along the way. Will there be problems on the main line to cause delays like in real life? I suppose in things like scenarios, yes, but Timetable Mode is fundamentally built to work And that's just the general thing with Train Sim World, and I think you can agree with this, Kieran, is that like the timetable needs to work, and if like things happen in the timetable for them to break, I mean, like for example, your signal delays and your train faults and your temporary speed restrictions and stuff, that's what's there to kind of cause delays in a sense, but they won't intentionally be put in to cause problems on the main line. I'm guessing that's the stance you go with.
Yeah, I mean, so obviously the way that we build our timetables is off of, working timetable referencing, which anyone can have access to. Network Rail post, they publish all of them on their site. Obviously use like sites like Real Time Trains or Freight Locate and various others. So we build the timetables to match what is on the working timetable. From there, in terms of stuff with delays and stuff, I mean that's why DTG added the random behaviors, the train faults and stuff. So you have the choice to mix it up on a run. You could have a clean run by just turning all that off, or you can have a more stressful run, I suppose, if you want to whack it all the way up to the max. So you have that option there. Scenarios is where you could do a lot more creative things. You have a lot more creative freedom in that sense. So you're only doing the one service, one sort of scenario in that sense. Because obviously Riviera introduced the dispatching scenario, so you can see it there. There's so many things that you can do with scenario that you can't do in service mode. So service mode or timetable mode is built to provide a fully working 24-hour realistic timetable, and that's what we always aim to deliver. So if you want to experience something as a one-off, then the scenarios are good for that. If you want to do a fully real-life working run, then you do timetable mode. And if you want to mix it up and maybe have a chance of getting delayed or held up or experiencing a train fault, then you've got settings in TSW6 that allow you to do that. So I do feel like timetable mode now is a lot more interesting in that stuff. I typically when I do drive, I tend to leave train faults on and signal delays and stuff like that, just to have something a bit different. So yeah, hopefully that answers that question.
Nice one. Snocko Elevators, you've said, will there be a chance to have locomotives from other countries run on the lines? No, unless it's like obviously country like specific to what the line should have, or is relatively realistic, as we mentioned earlier. I know you really want to see an SD40 on British lines, Snocko. So to answer your question, if you use free roam, you can shove as many SD40s on this and knock down as much of our infrastructure as you want to. But yeah, that's that question. What is your favourite part about being a third party? That's one for you yourself and for Danny as well. Do you want me to say that one for when he comes back? Because he might like.
Yeah, save that one for when he comes back, because it'll be good to get his input as well on that.
I'll save that one back. Oh, a technical question for you from Southerner. What temperature should I set my oven to for light baking?
My advice is don't get involved in light baking if you want to keep your sanity. I could go into light baking a little bit though as a process, just to kind of give people an idea. I know that was more of a jokey question, but yeah. Light baking has several steps to it. So first of all, you've got to look at, what are you light baking? Are you light baking a station? Are you light baking a depot or a tunnel? A tunnel's fairly straightforward to do. There's a few steps to it. Using I forget the exact names, but it's like light mass volumes and stuff like that you all use. You've got to change a few things with the track, the OLE if there is any. So there's quite a few steps there. Stations, you don't typically light bake a station unless it's something like New Street, which is more kind of underground sort of in a sense. So basically, light baking is you would light bake an area if natural sunlight can't get into it. So, you know, again, like tunnels, underground stations, things like that. But it's a very painful process because it never works first time. There's a single time that I've done light baking where I click it once, come back 15-20 minutes later, and it's worked first time, everything's happy. There's always something. And that's not the fault of, you know, the tools or anything like that, or, you know, any developers. That's just the way the process is. You've got to spend a lot of time perfecting it, and, you know, getting things right. Like, you know, you could import, you know, a model, for example, and it looks great, and then you go to light bake it, and even though everything's been done correctly, it hasn't light baked properly, or, you know, there's an issue or whatever. So there is a lot of steps to it. I do not find any joy in doing it because it also means that is me stepping away from the PC for 30 minutes because I can't do anything else. So yeah.
The moral of the story: don't do light baking. It'll...
If you're going to get involved in development, light baking's the one to avoid.
There you go. Coot or Cootie, I'm not too sure how to pronounce that, but is there any plans to extend the West... you've put East Coast Main Line, but I'm guessing you mean the West Coast Main Line. The answer to that was no. I'm guessing TJ is put... I'm guessing the 805 will layer into West Coast Main Line Trent Valley once both released. A 6888 would be good for Durft, if possible, using your 350-1-12- and also, is it possible for your 350-1-2-3 to also appear on Trent Valley? I think we covered all that already.
Yeah.
So basically, the nuts and bolts of it is all the 350s will be on there. The 805. Go back in the stream. There's an answer to it. I'll make timestamps. So if you've missed anything, any specific things we talk about, I'll timestamp it. A few more questions. Got 9 more questions. Wow. Will you make an Exeter to Bristol route for or a Cardiff route? I mean, if it's not on the roadmap, that's the question. But I mean,
no plans.
No plans. There you go. Is Gardner going to be looked at? That's the one we looked at. Chronicle's got a few questions here. So, what made you pick this route over Birmingham to London? You already covered that one, I think.
Well, Danny's back now, by the way. Do you want to ask that question that you were going to ask earlier?
Oh yeah. That's perfect timing.
Well, I came back and listened to Kieran bleeding his heart out about light baking and almost turned the stream off again. So.
Before I ask that one, Train Simulator Drivers put, do you want to challenge all aboard? Do an Australian route? Would you ever stem outside the UK? No.
So I just want to be blunt with some answers. Would we stem outside the UK? Potentially. Australia, I know absolutely nothing about the Australian Railway, so that would not be... Like Kieran's alluded to earlier, you stick to your strengths. We've got certain strengths with our team, with what we can produce, not even just what we know railway-wise. It's obviously what we can produce. And so obviously stick to your strengths, and going to an Australian, American, anything like that would not be... I don't know anything about those railways.
I suppose does Unreal Engine even work when it's upside down?
I'll leave you to the political jokes. Geographical.
So the question was, what was your favourite part of being a third party? What's your favourite part about being a third party developer for Train Sim World? Gosh, I couldn't get my words out.
I mean, listen, I like Kieran, we developed stuff for Train Sim Classic, and for me it was always a bit of a hobby. You know, I never made money out of it or anything like that. You know, I did stuff for people that know, so things like Transpennine, like Merge, the Chatmoss and the Manchester to Leeds, the ATS release, that was me. I think some of the track on Missing Link between Wolverhampton and Birmingham, that was me. There's a few other bits and pieces as well, some stuff on Northampton Loop. So I did a few things for Racing Classic. Also, always loved making my own routes on Racing Classic. Um, I had a page years ago called Linnell Productions, and I was producing the chase line for many years.
Oh, I'd love
And
to see the chase line. Oh, sorry, you mentioned it and it got me excited. Carry on.
so I creative years. I joined a group called Extravis, I think, many years ago, which never went anywhere neither. And I was trying to make something of it, and then through the opportunities I had with Trains in World, I think the fact that I'm now sat there, in essence, being able to create an entire company, both me and my partner, with some, really close colleagues, Kieran's been there every step of the way since day one, and there's been a couple of other people as well who will be, and I think the same for people like Kieran. Kieran through his own life, has done Trains in Plastic stuff, which he'll explain, and I think the opportunity to now turn this into not just a hobby but actually a career. Believe it or not, I think that's the most exciting thing. The fact that I love doing this. I enjoy making things. Do I enjoy release day? No, it's the worst day in the world. And the release day for Birmingham Crew was an absolute nightmare. But actually being a third party, being able to make a career out of it, from what was just a hobby and a passion when I was a teenager. I think that for me is probably the greatest thing. About being a third party, so I don't know about Kieran.
Yeah, I mean, kind of the same, really. I mean, I enjoyed doing TS Classic development for a while, but I got into it quite late, so there was never really a possibility to ever turn it into a job. And for quite a big portion of my life, my choices in terms of career goals were either to work on the railway or to be a game developer. And with TSW, I've been able to achieve becoming a game developer. And I think as well, the other big thing with TSW in comparison to TSC, I found in TS Classic, I ended up developing a lot of the same stuff, and there wasn't really anything sort of new to learn because, it's quite an old engine, for example. Like, there's only so much that you can do, whereas with TSW, Unreal Engine is a very modern day engine. I think Matt said it on one of the DTG streams quite a while ago. There's still things that DTG are learning to this day about Unreal Engine, and that's the same for me. The joy that I have from doing all this is that every day is kind of different. There's always something new. There's always something different to do, and it always keeps bringing challenges. If it was doing the same thing over and over, I'd imagine get quite bored after a while. So thankfully, to have is a lot of freedom that we do in TSW, and still be able to learn stuff every day. It is fantastic. And I couldn't be more thankful that I'm in the position that I'm in now, where I get to work with Danny and the rest of the team, and produce all these great things for TSW that isn't just enjoyed by PC players but also console players as well. I mean, that's a big one. Booting up my Xbox and seeing a product that I was involved in helping make is still surreal to me to this day. So yeah, it's very rewarding, and I'm glad that we've been able to get this far doing it, and hopefully we can continue doing it for many years to come.
Nice one. Right, we've arrived at Stafford, so I'm gonna, once I've unloaded my passengers, transition across to TSC. But was there any final things you wanted to mention just in terms of Birmingham Crew itself? I don't know if you've seen any questions in the comments. The only thing I've seen is there announcements on this route? Yes. And I think the same question will be, is there announcements on Trent Valley? And I think the answer will be...
I think to touch on, well, yes, the answer is yes.
Yeah.
So I think one thing I just want to touch on before we leave Birmingham Crew is I've seen a lot of people, because of a few comments that Shannon made and a few comments that Kieran made, on kind of like release day, which was, I've already alluded to, quite hectic. And I'm going to be honest, because of release day, we kind of stepped back from the community, which was a little bit sad. On that day, that there's some fantastic people in this community, but unfortunately there are a couple of us that do let the community down at times. Certain individuals receive death threats, etc., which wasn't fair. It's a train sim world product at the end of the day, and so if people wonder why we kind of stepped back a little bit, that was why, because obviously we did quite a bit, Richie, as you well know, and we've included in you, which obviously we can't say right now in future stuff as well, and we wanted to be quite community based. So yeah, we did kind of step back a little bit from that, but also there's a few comments obviously around when the route was finished and when it went into testing. Obviously the route was finished in June, went into testing. I've seen a lot of comments saying, oh well, it was a TSW5 product, and then it's been rushed to make it a TSW6 product, and I wouldn't necessarily say that. We had the choice. Dovetail were fantastic with us. We had the choice. Do we want to include the TSW6 features when it got made a TSW6 product? And DTG were great. They gave us great commitments. They were very vocal on the roadmaps that this would be the first product out, and they stuck to their commitment. And I think the thing was, like, Kieran fundamentally did a lot of those TSW6 features, and obviously being a new feature, documentation was light. And I know, Kieran, you had to take a lot of the things, didn't you, from things like Riviera to do it. But I think some of the comments where people have said that about DTG, to defend DTG a little bit, it wasn't that it was a TSW5 route and then we had to make it a TSW6 route, and that's what messed it up. That wasn't the case at all. The issues with blurriness, etc., is artwork at stations, etc., that kind of thing. We took the decision. DTG gave us the opportunity to have TSW6 features. We could have said no, thank you. We'll implement it in later fixes. But I know Kieran was quite confident that he could implement them, and we went for it. And I think we pretty much got there for the majority of it. But as most core releases, there's always obviously bugs, and obviously that's happened with those new features as well. So things like announcements, train faults, etc., all those kind of things. There's obviously bugs with, but obviously we're trying to work as best we can with DTG as Kieran said, as they're learning about their new technology. We're then obviously trying to fix it where we can on our end as well. So yeah, I think that's the only thing I just wanted to iron out, that going from a TSW5 route to a TSW6 route was not what caused any of those issues, and we had the choice in that wasn't imposed on us to have all the new features. So we just didn't feel it was right to release it on TSW6 and not release it with all of the new features like announcements and train faults. We thought we kind of thought it was kind of needed, really. So
okay. Yeah, and just to touch base on the TSW6 feature stuff, like the team at DTG were incredible in despite the documentation was still in the process of being made. So there was a lot of times where they would personally sit down with me, whether it was in regards to announcements or whatever, and help go through that process. I know that the senior audio guy, Adam, I hope I got that right. But he's fundamentally, he was a big part of helping get the announcements working, helping with the generation of all the audio files and stuff that we needed for it. So despite learning a lot of new stuff, there was a lot of support behind it from DTG, and they were fantastic in that regard. And now that we have a much better idea of how those features work, we can look to try and do new things with them going forward and stuff like that as well. So
nice one. All right, cool. Well, I'm going to very quickly pop to the toilet. So what I'm going to do is if you've got any more questions, peeps, about about Birmingham to Crew specifically, so that they can be answered in that sort of the next 5 minutes, and then we'll jump into Trent Valley on TSC, and then we'll talk about what you can expect. Well, not all the details, but some of the details anyway, as we've got a pendulum flying through. So I'll very quickly pop for a wee, and if you want to just chat amongst yourselves and answer anything that you've seen in particular in the in the chat, I see one question about what's the most challenging part of about doing the longest route. I suppose that's more of a Trent Valley thing, but yeah, and anything else you want to mention about Birmingham Crew, if anyone's got any questions about it, and then yeah, I will return and we'll jump straight into TSC. Can we see the Trent Valley? Someone said, "Can we see the Trent Valley?" We will see the Trent Valley line. Don't worry. Let's have a look.
How long is it on Train Sim Classic? I think Trent Valley is at 50, 53 miles, 50, 55 miles, something like that. Oh, there we go. There's our very own Adam Haig answering the question for us. So.
Of course, Adam knew the answer straight off the bat.
What else do we have? So, Richie's nipped off. Let's answer the most challenging part of doing the longest route. To be honest, that the longest route it doesn't really change. It's more of a gimmick, really. That obviously it's the longest A to B run. People keep saying that they want, obviously, long stretches. So we've tried to give that. You are going to get some long runs with things like Pendolino, the 805, the 807. I think end-to-end Trent Valley on the 350 is about an hour and 40. So you are going to get some good length end-to-end. You're not just going to get your usual 30-40 minute journeys. There is science behind that. There's a reason third parties do that. So we are testing with Trent Valley. So if you are somebody that likes long runs, then you kind of need to stamp your feet a little bit with Trent Valley, because if it's not successful or people don't like it, well then you're not going to see 100 odd mile routes in the future. So we have kind of got it on a gambit in trying that. But I'm going to be honest, I think Trent Valley just suits our team really, in terms of station numbers, the mileage of the route, etc. Anything from your end, Kieran, that you think is more challenging with Trent Valley? Or?
I don't think distance, so like, at least from my perspective with what I do within the team, I don't think it necessarily gives an individual challenge compared to like Birmingham Crew or any other type of release, just because it's a longer route. I think it's just, it'll be interesting to see whether people enjoy it. You've got many different options in terms of gameplay, in full end-to-end runs, with any of the express trains or the 350. If you really want to do 2 and a bit hours in 66, then there's that there for you. I know that something that people have asked about is longer freight runs for UK routes. So there really is a bit of everything again, just like there was with Birmingham Crew. In terms of challenges from that regard, I don't know. I think we've learned a lot, and it'll be, I think, a lot of the challenges that we've faced in the past. We've been able to work on improving that. So yeah.
Cool. Are we happy to jump into TSC?
Oh, yeah, I think just to end, because there was a comment there about, I do just want to touch on about all aboard missing critical parts of routes all the time. I think the only thing I just want to touch on with Birmingham's Crew, just to finalise it, is obviously we're aware that some people are still experiencing some issues, primarily on Xbox Series S. Obviously, that's been explained. I think Kieran explained it previously when it got released, and I don't know, Matt's done a fair bit recently as well. Obviously, when we get certification, that's when it goes to Xbox Beta. So, the data and everything is released before we get any feedback from Xbox. So obviously, we then get that feedback from Xbox and have to respond. So obviously, that's why we sometimes have the issues around release on Xbox. We're aware there's still some issues on Xbox, specifically more in the kind of Black Country section of the route. We did a lot of fixes around Crew immediately on release because we were aware of the issues. We're still aware Penkridge has still got some materials and tries that need fixing and making a bit better. Same around Smethwick, so people are experiencing the blurries really around coming into Birmingham. It's mainly because of Smethwick Roll Street, Smethwick Galton Bridge. So again, they are on our list to fix as well. So yeah, I don't want people to think that we are just moving on from Birmingham to Crewe, ignoring it, and moving on to Trent Valley. We obviously, we've been in production on Trent Valley since the kind of midsummer. So obviously we don't just stop and go back. We're kind of now looking at a lot of those fixes that it's been done and getting those done. So yeah, I think that was the big thing, Richie. I just wanted to end it on. I just don't want people to think that we've forgotten about Birmingham to Crewe. We certainly aren't, because the 805 features on it. So what the last thing we want is the 805 to come out and it to be a nightmare with issues as well. So yeah, we've still got things to do on Birmingham to Crewe, on improvements. Obviously, there's a lot of core stuff as well, which Matt and Alex have spoken about in recent weeks as well, which obviously we can't fix. But anything that we can fix, we are still working on. So yeah, we haven't forgotten
Cool.
about it.
Right, and let's transition across to TSC, where we're going to do a run from Stafford down to Milton Keynes. It's a 2-part scenario, this, and then as we go along, if you've got any questions about Trent Valley, what you can sort of expect to see from it, things like that. Still got a few more questions on the post, but yeah, like I mentioned earlier, if your questions have been missed, pop it on the post. I am going through that slowly, so yeah, let me get that scenario up. Hopefully it's still there, because it disappeared randomly earlier, so hopefully it's still there, and I can just do that, and we're straight in it. Look at that. Obviously I'm not showing any Train Sim World Trent Valley today, so don't be expecting that, peeps. I know some people will be like, oh, gameplay. No, not happening. Not today. So subscribed. So part 1 is
I'm back.
Oh, welcome back. Stafford to Rugby, so let's do that. Put my controller over there, because now I'm on keyboard now. This is the fun bit. Yeah, so Trent Valley questions.
What's this game?
What's this game? I know. You've arrived at Stafford. I need to remember how to play this. Yeah, so Stafford, Rugeley, Lichfield, Tamworth, Atherstone, Nuneaton. I think that's an all stop. I think, is that missing one station? I think it is, isn't it?
So Polesworth is the only station,
Yeah.
but Polesworth only has a northbound platform. So it does have a southbound platform that's disused, and the footbridge got removed a long time ago. So I think there was one service a day. I don't think that runs anymore. I can't remember. I think it may still do. There's one service a day that goes from, I think it's Northampton to Crewe, which stops at Polesworth heading north.
So obviously the question I were going to ask, and I think it'd be a good one to first to mention, is how come the Stafford to Crewe section is being included in both routes? Because I can imagine that'll be a question. I think someone asked that earlier, didn't they, about what does it go up to Crewe? And I know we touched on it, but do you want to go into more detail about that?
Yeah, so obviously I think it's a good time to talk about. Obviously, you're starting the whole route section. So obviously the route in general is Trent Valley. I mean, Trent Valley is 50 odd miles. I think it's 55 miles off the top of my head. If it's 50 miles, it's 50, but it's between 50 and 55 miles off the top of my head. So it's a standard TSW route. It's a decent amount of time from Rugby to Stafford, freight runs, stoppers, fast runs, etc. as well. Obviously, you'd have some stopping in there from places like Lichfield and Tamworth and Nuneaton as well for some of the faster services. So in itself, Trent Valley, as this route, which was really successful in its time, for me, it was one of the game changers back in the TSC days. I know, like, it came out with loads of custom OLE. I think this was kind of I think this came out pre kind of ATS days. And for me, like, ATS's TSC quality kind of like built off the back of things like this, and some of Just Trains' work as well. So for me, this was a game-changing route. So yeah, I mean, on its own, Trent Valley is a fantastic route. We obviously had Stafford to Crewe. We are very aware that a lot of services don't stop at Stafford. So we kind of thought, well, we've already done Stafford to Crewe, why not include it? Yeah, we could put a route hop at Stafford, but we just felt that would fundamentally change a a load of the kind of stopping patterns. We may have to create a load of fake stops at Stafford to make it playable. I think you alluded to it earlier, Richie, on West Coast Mainline South with loads of services not being drivable, and you're kind of in that middle ground then of do I make fake stops, or do I make it so barely any services are drivable? You know, it's a hard one. So that's why we included Stafford's Crew. We already had it. It's not costing anything. It just bolts into it, and that way people that didn't buy Birmingham's Crew get it as well. So we just thought it was a worthy add-on to it. Even if we didn't go south of rugby, we thought it was worth adding in, just so that players had a bit more playability. So that's I think that's why we included Stafford Crew, really. I don't know if you want to do the southern section as well while we're here, or
Yeah, you can do. Obviously, I suppose the southern section kind of makes a bit more sense because we don't already have it. But I think the main question I have in there is, some people may say, well, we already have that bit in that route, so why is it being included again? But
yeah,
I think the main answer is playability, realistically.
literally it's just playability. It's the only reason we included it, to make it more playable. Obviously, you've got Basford Hall up north, obviously just south of Rugby. You've got Durft, so you've got natural freight end-to-end points as well, which is quite nice as well, which is very rare on a route to have freight end-to-end runs, or natural like driver changeovers, etc. for freight. So yeah, that was one thing. In terms of the southern part, it's been a nightmare doing the southern part from Rugby to Milton Keynes because it's such a long way. I mean, it's about 20. Someone correct me. It's 25 plus miles. So I think it's similar to the Stafford to Crewe section. So it's a long way. And the whole reason we did it is, again, playability. It gave people that run from Euston all the way to Crewe. Obviously, if you don't mind going back into kind of the BR days of the mid 80s and JT's routes as well, and I know there's some fantastic add-ons come out recently for PC, obviously for the timetables for, I think it's Preston Carlisle, and I'm sure one will come out for Crewe Preston as well. So yeah, you'll have the whole section Euston to Carlisle then. So it literally, Rugby to Milton Keynes was included purely for playability again. Nothing else really, more than anything. You know, the route we focused on was Trent Valley. That's what we focused on, and we included that bit purely for playability really.
So Southwestern's asked, with the inclusion of the Crewe to Stafford section, will there be a discount maybe for existing Birmingham to Crewe owners? I would hazard a guess and say no. It's just not really how it works. I don't know whether that was a discussion, but I can imagine the answers are no, because it kind of does. Although it's the same section, it's fundamentally like you say, it's a different experience that you're providing with the Crewe. The Crewe to Stafford serves a kind of different purpose in a sense, doesn't it, for the Trent Valley than it does to Birmingham Crewe? Yeah. So,
well, at the end of the day, we're already including 83 new miles.
Yeah, so
there's not many routes, Richie, that will push that. I think JT's Preston Carlisle is the only one that pressed that for new mileage on track.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of new miles. Obviously, the 807 350-4, yes, I know they're not brand new trains. For example, the 350-4, we have made quite a lot of adjustments. We took on a lot of feedback. We've got a lot more source this time round as well than we had for the 350s on Birmingham to Crewe, which has been really helpful. So Sam's done a lot of good work on that side of things as well. We've also changed the livery a little bit more to try and make it a little bit more realistic. Things like the colours, etc. We're trying to match it a bit more with the lighting in TSW. So we've done a lot of work on that. Obviously, the 807, believe it or not, it really isn't just a case of just adding on two carriages.
That was a good question, actually. The difference. So a question that I personally had myself, and it would be good to clarify, is what is the difference between an 805 and an 807? I know the difference, but could you clarify that and sort of like why? Sort of like discuss why the 805 kind of makes more sense to be a separate purchase than comparatively the 807 being included in the route.
I'll let Kieran do the technical stuff in a minute. I mean, when we started the 805, we never planned to do the 807 or Trent Valley. So that's first and foremost. Also, it's not you don't see for example, to call that a couple, Rivet, Skyhook. Look at their 170 and 158s. Every time it's a new product, that isn't just something they mandate. That's something that's driven by Dovetail, who are ultimately the publisher as well. So it we don't release multiple versions of trains. It was a little bit different with the 350 because we were doing non-licensed products, but to have so many different license versions of a train can make it an absolute headache in terms of releasing. I mean, we released one livery for the 805 and went through the best part of 5 or 6 months license checking. So it can be a real challenge. So yeah, and because they are fundamentally different trains, I know people will say they aren't. A bit like the 801, 802, for example, along with our 805, 807. There's not a great lot of difference with them. And if you're not that bothered about the real specifics of a train, then yeah, I totally understand that comment. But actually, from a delivery point of view, I mean, I actually think the 805 and 807 are probably the biggest differences, Kieran. I think when we went aboard, I think that was the biggest thing we noticed, that actually Avanti's kind of custom layout was quite different.
Yeah, I mean, even obviously a lot of comments about like, oh, yet another IET, and it's no different from the ones that we've got in game. Fundamentally, every class of IET is different in some way, shape, or form. Some of it's more noticeable than others. I mean, take 801 to the 802 to the 805 to the 807, and then even more recently, East Midlands 810. They've all got differences. I mean, even a GWR 800 has differences to an LNER 800. They do all have differences, and obviously, we can appreciate that you may not always see those differences. Some of them are just purely technical. Obviously, 805 to an 807, one like fundamental obviously changes there is that 807 doesn't have diesel engines, and is electric only, but it does actually have a diesel button in the cab. It still has that there in case they decide, I guess, in the future, if they want to have diesel engines, they've got the opportunity to do it. But even engine specifications can be different. An 805 has different, slightly different power inputs, outputs to that of an 802. So there's differences all over. Visual is obviously where people are going to notice the most. I mean, one of the biggest visual changes for the 805 versus other IETs that are already in the game is the passenger information systems and the screens, which were a nightmare to do between me and Sam. Sam did a fantastic job getting all the visual elements sorted for it. But yeah, even between an 805 and an 807, an 805 doesn't have your standard premium section, whereas an 807 does. The kitchen area is a different size, a different length.
2 meters. It's 2 meters longer, isn't it?
Exactly. So
and it really is bizarre things like that. So people go, oh, it's the same train. It's not. Like, straight away we've got to rip out parts of scripting. We've got to change scripting. All the posters are different throughout the train. So again, Sam's had to change where all the posters go. And believe it or not, they're not 2-minute things. Straight away you talk about model for the kitchen. It's not just a simple case of, it's a bit like your kitchen at home. You don't just bolt 2 meters onto it. You've got to change, everything. In essence, it's stretched out. So we've got to fundamentally change everything. So yeah, it's not, to the standard eye, it's one's electric with 7 cars, one's bi-mode with 5 cars. That's the fundamental. Actually, in terms of detail, there's a lot more that goes into it, and the thing is, you do get scrutinised because obviously you go through the licensing process, and these licensees, people like Avanti want their train to look spot on. And believe me, they really do go through it with a fine-tooth comb as well, and Dovetail want it to be spot on. So you really do have to go through every little detail trying to make things. For example, I think the badge colour, the disabled door badge colour was slightly off, the wrong shade of blue, so we had to change that. So there are so many elements, little things that people will not pick up on that's been done across them, that actually is a lot more work than people realise. So yeah, I mean, unless there's anything else to that, Kieran, I think that's the fundamental difference, isn't it, between the two really, and why they are separate products.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, obviously going back to, just the general range of IET stuff that's obviously in TSW at the moment, with GWR 802 being the most recent one, and then obviously the 801 with that came with East Coast Mainline. We've got fundamental differences there on the 805 that weren't necessarily there for either of the previous two ITs that were represented in game. And a lot of work has been done, across the board from train art to technical stuff. And obviously the 805 as well, because I've seen it a lot just in general online about, why would I buy the 805 when I could just get the 807 or Trent Valley? Well, obviously, talking about the differences of the train, but as well, the 805 provides a brand new timetable for West Coast Mainline South and Birmingham Crew, but West Coast Mainline South has a full timetable with the 805 pack, which obviously on PC, there was a mod timetable done by Fox a while ago, which obviously he then helped make the 805 timetable for the 805 pack on West Coast Mainline South, and now consoles can get to experience that, for the first time. So, in that regard, it might not be for everyone, but I think to say that it's just the same train in a different livery doesn't do it justice at all. But obviously I can appreciate why some people may see it that way. Same can be said about a lot of trains and stuff in Train Sim World. When DCG announced the Voyager, and people went, well, why didn't you do the 221? Well, it's the same sort of thing, isn't it? Like, no train, even if they look very similar, they're not really the same. There's a reason that they're specified as a different class of train.
I mean, as well, if you want to be really, really nitpicky, right, every single individual train is also different, because each will have their own defects and all sorts of stuff. So, when people look at it like steam trains, for example, every steam train was individually numbered. Same with other electric multiple units or whatever else. But like someone will say 350-116 had a broken window or like a dent in it or something like every single train will have something different about it. But you make a good point about the subclasses there. Yeah, I agree. I think the only thing I knew about the 805 and the 807 were one's obviously diesel and electric, and the other one's electric only. I've also ever shot that station. But I think as well, and I don't know whether this is sort of like me just chatting at my ass or anything, but like you've got like the 805 realistically can be layered into more places than the 807, because obviously the 807 is electric only. So the 805, I think at the minute, is realistically being used in more places, but also in the future where it may fit into a diesel only line, it makes more sense for it to be a separate thing as well, I suppose, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, they both have their place. I mean, they both fit in. Obviously, if ever we get, something like a North Wales line, obviously, yeah, brilliant. The 805 fits in perfectly. But I mean, for me, we've tried to do something different.
Yeah.
I know some people go, oh, more West Coast Mainline, kind of thing, and that was never the plan. We got plenty of routes that we want to do, plenty on the cards, plenty that we spoke to Dovetail about. We've even done source trips for certain routes that we haven't even remotely started or got any plans to start at the minute. So we never planned to do so much West Coast Mainline content. It just kind of developed as we started going through Birmingham to Crewe. And to be honest, I think Kieran kind of alluded to it. The whole idea is it's all meant to blend together. You see a lot of what we really try to aim to do with Birmingham to Crew and then the 805 and then Trent Valley is try and give people a little bit more value for money rather than just buying a product and then never having anything from that going forward. We tried to make it so that people got more out of the product, so that something else came out and they could use it again. For example, the Birmingham to Crew route, you can then use the 350s on West Coast Mainline South because we've released a timetable for it. You can now use it on Trent Valley because obviously that will be included in the timetable. So we've really tried to make it so, yes, they tie together. And again, we've always believed in the more you own, the more you should get. I am a big believer in that. Somebody who spends £30 a year and somebody who spends £150 a year, personally, I think the person who really invests in the game, they really deserve to get more out of it because they're investing so much more. It's no different than any other loyalty thing or subscriber. The more that you invest in the game or in the business, the more you're going to get out of it, and that's kind of what we tried to do with West Coast Mainline. We tried to make it so that you didn't just buy a product and then that was it. You've got a series of releases that you can kind of then build off the back of, and try and get a bit more bang for your buck. I mean, like I said, from the free products, you'll end up with a 2019 timetable on Birmingham to Crew, but then obviously with the other two, you'll end up with 3 modern timetables on 3 kind of key sections of the West Coast Mainline, and a load of new stock that wasn't there. Well, it's just still not there at the minute. Still obviously to come out. So that's really what we tried to build. We tried to put it together as a collection, really, and the people who really invested got more out of it. Fundamentally, I think that's probably the best way to explain it.
Yeah. Question for all aboard: if you could make any route for Train Sim World, no limits on size or licensing, what would you do? Well,
I'm gonna let Kieran answer because he knows my answer.
I'm going to start this off by saying whatever route I mentioned does not in any way mean that we will ever do it. Nor is there guarantee because we're
this is all just theoretical, hypothetical, whatever. Like, don't be getting your tinfoil hats out. Nothing leaks. This is just our wish list, let's say. Go ahead.
I've got it's hard because I've got a few that I would really like to do for varying different reasons. First one would be Tyne and Wear Metro.
Awesome,
very local to me, something very different. Mainly with the older trains, especially with them going out of service now. They're in the process of being phased out, so it'd be quite nice to do. Another one would be obviously like over the Pennines, with like the Class 185, for example. I think that again is something that I'd love to see. I really enjoyed the Class 185 in TS Classic. It's something that I would absolutely love to have in TSW. And then fundamentally, the big one for me, again, living on the East Coast, would be Newcastle to Edinburgh. But that's a hell of that's a lot, a lot of mileage there. But it's very scenic. It's high speed, but it has a lot of great scenery elements, and I enjoy traveling on that line in real life. And again, that is something that I would love to have in TSW. But just because I'd love to have it in TSW again does not mean that we're making it or we've got any plans to make it. So don't get your hopes up. Don't
be going. If I see anything on the forums saying, Newcastle to Edinburgh leaked, or if I see a certain content, a certain piece of content saying massive leaks for Train Sim World, new third party releases there, nothing. It's just what we'd want to see as I'm about to absolutely barrel through Lichfield Trent Valley. How about you, Danny? What would you want to say? Or what would your number one route be?
I mean, there's lots of little. Like I said, I'd love things like the Chase Line. I worked on it for years when it was electrified. I did loads of the bridge raisings on it, so I know that route really well. Born in Walsall, I'd love that route one day. So that's one. What else? Obviously, lived in, similar to your connections, Richie. Like, lived in Telford. We've never had, the Wolverhampton to Shrewsbury kind of stretch. So I'd love that one day. I worked on that line as well with a lot of platform extensions. When the 1960s came in, so that's another stretch. I personally would love a fully working. Kieran will laugh when I say this now because he knows what I'm going to say. I'd love a fully working like Eurostar 373.
Oh no.
To do something like that. Just something a bit different. Like, not happening. Eurostar are owned by like 3 companies. Licensing would be an absolute nightmare. So, I'd like something like that. So, talk about parallel differences. Chase line to Eurostar to Paris. So, I'd like something like that. But again, it comes with limitations. So,
I would say chase line, please, 100%, because that's I like the chase line. I think it's very unique. And yeah, I'd love to see Telford as well, because although it's Telford and you want to avoid it, it still would be cool to mock it virtually. Yeah, there's some really good ones, but of course, must stress, peeps, these are just wish list things. If I see, I'll be livid if I see anything on the forums.
Just picking routes as well. What people need to remember is we obviously have routes we'd love to do, but it really comes down to what we can do train-wise as well, and not even just can we make that train? Is that train available? Can we adapt something? Can we make it? The other big thing is, can we get source for it? I know one of the questions has been, why isn't there a 730? Well, we made it very clear during Birmingham Crew, we still aren't at a point where we are able to make a train. There's barely any third-party developers making British content that are making trains currently. The only people that have released them, just trains, Rivet and Skyhook, have made their own fundamental trains from scratch. Excuse me if I missed anybody there, but they're the 3 kind of core that have been around TSW for a while now, and they all make trains. So it takes a while to get to that point where making trains is really successful. We've obviously seen routes come out recently that don't have new trains, and obviously you're going to see routes come out in the next year as well, which we've obviously already started seeing. One recently being announced, obviously Firefly, where they've done similar. They've made modifications to an existing train, because making a train from scratch is really, really challenging. So not only are you asking the question, can we make this train, but can we then get all the resources we need? Can we get close to get audio, or is audio available elsewhere? Can we get 200-300 photos of the inside of the cab? Like, can we get LiDAR footage? How close can we get? Kieran's already alluded to it about things like performance. In order to make it all work, we need to know how the train performance works. So, having manuals and diagrams of the trains, etc., that's really important too. So, believe it or not, actually, one of the first things we do when we look at a route is what trains would come with it, and can we do it, and can we even get remotely close to it? And then obviously you've got the challenge of things like licensing and other elements there as well. So yeah, I just want to clear up, Richie, that's the decision between what we make is actually a lot deeper than Kieran loves this route, let's make that route. Like, it really isn't just that simple a process. So
we wish it was.
So, someone you're familiar with, Incredible Trains, has just entered the chat with a shocked face emoji. How you doing? Welcome to the stream. We've also got a question from Train Simulator Driver saying, thinking of scenery, would you ever consider having little cameo sections like they do in American Truck and Euro Truck, where you pull into a station and there can be like a little video icon that shows you like a time lapse or a cinematic of the scenery? I don't know whether that's like a very, very unique question, and I don't know whether that's sort of like I don't know. Would you ever, because a lot of time goes into the scenery and stuff, would you ever try and implement something new that we've not seen in routes before, where you could like basically walk out to somewhere, spot something, and it can show you like a landmark or whatever, and it can tell you some information? Is that even possible?
I mean, I think we can safely say we've never really looked at it.
Yeah.
It's It's an interesting idea. We can't really say whether it's possible or not because, as Danny's just said, it's not something we've really looked at. Doing. I think. Who knows?
Yeah.
It's all. It's an interesting idea. Whether it can be executed, I don't know.
It probably needs to be a core
spend some
thing,
time
wouldn't it?
thinking about it. Not necessarily. I mean, you could do a lot of stuff outside of core, but then it's how will that work across all platforms well enough? And is there going to be any potential licensing issues that could come from that? There's a lot of different elements to consider for something like that. Like I said, it's a very interesting idea, and one that I think if I ever have any free time, I'd love to spend a bit of time in it, potentially explore in the future. But yeah, no plans. Not too sure how well that can be executed either at the moment.
Nice one. How you doing, Johannes? Welcome to the stream. Yeah, so I saw a question because we're coming into Tamworth now, and I will get back to some of the questions I've just hit in the chat. But I saw a question earlier on that was, will we see any AI cross-country 170s and Voyagers at Tamworth?
You can answer that, Kieran. You're doing it. You can talk about your AI.
Yes, there will be.
Cool, there you go. Okay, I thought that's and then there was another question as well that was a bit more recent about what layers can people expect on this route.
I don't know if we can really go into all the details yet.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
I don't know about you, Danny, whether it's something that we're potentially looking at showcasing at some point.
We obviously can talk about a few things. So yes, obviously you're going to see AI. You've got Tamworth, you've got Nuneaton, you've got literally Trent Valley. So obviously, yes, you are going to see AI, but no, we can't go into all the details of layers, etc. That will come out on a different roadmap stream.
Ah, there you go. Okay, nice one. Right, so as we come into Tamworth, there was a couple of questions. With more functional GSMR coming to other routes, is it something you'll ever consider adding to your trains?
Potentially.
Is I suppose technically
because it's not a DTG feature, so we obviously that's something that Firefly that they're doing themselves from the ground up. Credit to them. So if we were to look into that feature, we would also have to look at doing it from the ground up, or potentially reach out to Firefly and see if they would want to work with us on it. But there's no plans at the moment for something like that. And it's how well would that, it's something completely new as well. So, take a lot of dev time and how well is that going to be received across the player base? Is it something that a lot of people are asking for? There's definitely been people on the forums and stuff that have been asking for it, but again, train development is such a complex thing and takes a lot of time. I mean, obviously the GSMR stuff, a lot of that is technical, but there's also art stuff as well. Who knows? We'll just have to wait and see. is all I can say at the moment. I personally would like fully working GSMR, whether that means whether we end up doing it, who knows, but it'll be interesting to see how it works out for the Firefly team, and obviously credit to them for coming up with something different. So yeah.
Another question. This is quite interesting, actually. Interesting one. It's a timetable specific one. So, if the Trent Valley and the A205 pack will have the 2025 timetables, does it mean you should theoretically be able to run the exact same services? So I think that's referring to the Stafford to Crewe section. So, is the timetable the exact day between the two routes, or is it slightly different? Is there a variation, or like Southwestern says, is there a way that you could be able to run the same service but on two different routes?
you
I
really
don't-
in it?
I was gonna say, did you want to answer that?
It's a bit of a
You know better
unique.
than me.
It's a bit of a unique one.
So some of it's a bit challenging. Obviously, some of the services we have had to adapt at Milton Keynes.
Yeah.
Obviously, driving up. So I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Kieran. I think, for example, the 805 services no longer stop at Milton Keynes, for example, and go to Stafford and then Crewe, which is different because they used to stop at Milton Keynes previously. So, whereas it worked on, originally that's no problem. So, for example, if we have trains now, we need to stop at Milton Keynes. Obviously, that is going to mess with the timetable. So I know that Kieran's got the unenvious job of feeding in the middle, because he's had to tie into obviously Fawkes' original West Coast Mainline South timetable, and then obviously Adam, one of our gameplay guys, did the modern Birmingham to Crewe timetable. So Kieran's then had that horrendous job of being in the middle, of trying to make them both work together. So yeah, where possible, we've tried to make it so it's as free flowing as possible between the two. But obviously, because you've got that hop in at places like Milton Keynes,
Yeah.
we obviously have had to change a couple, not too many. We've changed a couple of services to stop at Milton Keynes. I think there's 2 that we've changed from memory per hour. That plan. So yeah, fundamentally it should generally work out. And I think the days were slightly different as well, weren't they, Kieran? I think
Yeah,
similar era, the days were slightly different.
Yeah, so yeah, some slight differences in terms of that, absolutely. But ultimately as well, like we definitely tried to match them all up as close as possible. To, again, it's all about providing that sort of seamless experience. Obviously, I there's someone said it earlier in the chat about, with Milton Keynes, you're making every single service stop there. The answer to that is no. Obviously, we know that people want to experience, trains flying through stations and stuff like that. But it's also, providing a balance so you get a lot of playable services as well. So, and no doubt we'll share full details about how that all looks, closer to the time. So, keep an eye out, roadmaps and whatnot.
Nice one. Going back to the post just to see what sort of questions we've got there. So, trying to remember where I got to now. So a couple of questions about this route. I think we've covered a couple of them. So, what made you pick this route? Yeah, okay. So, what made you pick? Oh, I think we've already talked about this. What made you pick Trent Valley over Birmingham to Euston, or Birmingham to Milton Keynes in this case? I think we've already touched on that, haven't we?
Yeah.
I know we have route hopping, but did you consider London Euston to Crewe, as a lot of services bypass Milton Keynes towards Crewe? I think we discussed that as well. Will you start services that go non-stop through Milton Keynes at a signal a few miles before Milton Keynes, so it realistically simulates trains passing Milton Keynes? Otherwise, it could get a bit boring seeing all the trains all stop at Milton Keynes. So basically, that's saying, so the Milton Keynes skippers, will they skip it in the timetable?
So again, it obviously alludes back to what we were saying before. So, in terms of starting a service from signal, no, because that comes with its own challenges. You have to be able to. So where a player would typically take over a service, it needs to be from a reachable area, like with essentially at a station, or at a depot. If you're doing an ECS movement. So the counter to that is balancing having some services fly through Milton Keynes, for example, and other ones stop there. And do we need to obviously add some potential fake stoppers, just to give more playability? So again, obviously that's stuff that as we get closer to the time, there'll be full details on how that all looks. But yeah, there won't be any services that you start from a signal, just because of what we have to sort of stick to when we're making timetables for obviously all the platforms and stuff like that. So
yeah. Another question about how far into 2026 could we expect the route? We've answered that. Now that the West Coast Main Line will be completed in Train Sim World, not quite, are you guys wanting to focus on other areas of the UK for future routes? I think we've kind of alluded onto that. Sort of like, you know, you've got 2 years worth of plans, or however much you mentioned earlier. So I think the answer to that one is let's wait and see what the roadmap says. And then that question, there's a question about Northampton Loop. We'll come to that later on. And another question: will all aboard make a route from London through to Sheffield? Oh, you're not asking much there. Oh dear me.
Too much there, are
yeah,
you?
there's a bit. That's the whole of the Midland Main Line.
Small branch line, that is.
So Taserface, you ask, would you guys ever consider adding a stopping schedule to your timetable so we know what stops to call at? If you press T, it does come up with a schedule. I think that's what you're referring to. So if you want to be able to see your service pattern and what stops you calling at, you have to press T. Or if you're on TS Classic, it's F1. Quick question: if Birmingham to Crewe was set in 2019, why are the Class 390s in full Avanti livery? Again, I think that's just because that's down to the 390 not being all aboard's train. Yeah, it's not all aboard's train. And I think, let me just stop at Atherstone. I think that answers that. I mean, I suppose it's one of them, isn't it, where with the 390, it's a layer, and you can't really change the liveries of a layer. I don't think that's possible. I'm talking about before you start.
It's a whole new release basically. So,
yeah.
And the other challenge obviously would have been Virgin Train Days. So you'd have been going to get licensing for that.
Yeah.
So that's why fundamentally it was very similar. I think ATS did the same on Manchester Airport Commuter. I think that was set, I should know, like 2018 in terms of the timetable. Again, I don't think TFW were around or Avanti, but you know, what would you rather? Would you rather the services just not show? So again, I think every third party has to do it. You have to make the decision really as to.
You got to remember as well that 2019 is used because of COVID. I'm guessing that's the reason anyway.
Yeah, I mean timetables are getting better now. You know, you look at the West Coast Main Line now; it is getting a lot more back to how it was pre-COVID, even Birmingham to Crewe. But yeah, between 2020 and 2024, really, you obviously, you know, for example, you had one cross country an hour rather than the two. That kind of stuff, really. More so than anything. I tell you, the one thing I'm going to say, Richie, is when it comes to our route, you'll be thankful because the stopping boards are in blue.
Oh yeah.
So they might be a little bit easier for you to see. So.
Oh yes, I can spot blue from a mile off. I mean, I'm just ignore me stopping on this. It's because it's TSC and I'm using a keyboard. That's what I'm console player at heart, so I'm not used to all these funky buttons to play a game. That's what I'm blaming it on anyway. But yeah, Taserface is asking about timetable sheets in the cab. And Southwestern's adding on to that, saying that would add with hoodless immersion. So is there any, I don't imagine there's any plans, but you know, that sort of concept of having like a timetable sheet or like a, I don't know what would you actually call it? Is it it's like a document you have, don't you? Or if you had it on an iPad, you just kind of see what your schedule is and your stopping pattern and all that sort of stuff. You know, is that something that's ever been considered, or is it something like is that like a wish list thing if you could do it?
I think the problem is, and Kieran probably answered better, it sounds like it would have to be something core related,
right?
Because you'd have to have something like, you know, for example, a sheet on the wall, but it would have to adapt to what the timetable of the train was. And the only way I can think in my head, I can't really think of how that would work that isn't core related, because it would have to pull from the stopping patterns, etc. So, I mean, listen, there might be a way, but it doesn't sound like something that would be particularly easy to do.
Yeah.
I want to shoot myself in the foot here and go, it is possible without doing it, you know, without core things. There is a way to get that, you know, pull that information and make something from it. Doesn't mean that we've looked into it or I've got any plans to do it. Although now that, you know, I've said it, no doubt I'll get a message off Danny later asking me to look into it more for something. So...
No, don't expect any. Do not expect
it. But yeah, there's no plans.
It's
Again, it's one of those things. It's a cool idea, but
it's a wish list, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, absolutely.
You love the Birmingham to Crewe route, and you've been trying to find a route that calls at a majority of the stations, but without actually going into the services and seeing the stopping patterns. Yeah, I think that's relatively a core thing, and I think that's something I would like to see improved in core. Is when you're in like the main screen, for example, you'd be able to see what stops it calls at in the actual UI. I imagine that might be a bit more of a headache from like a development point of view. I have no idea, but I agree with you there, Taser. I think it would be a cool idea. But yeah,
We have tried that. We have, so I think we're trying that on Trent Valley, aren't we, Kieran? Like, because obviously a lot of the Pendos, the 807s, etc. They're varying stopping patterns.
Mm-hmm.
You'll have some that will go Milton Keynes, then Nuneaton, and then you lose control of it because it goes AI up towards Colwich and then turns off up towards Stone, up towards Stoke-on-Trent, towards Manchester.
Mm-hmm.
You'll have others that you can drive literally from, you pick it up at Crewe and you drop it off at Milton Keynes. You don't stop anywhere. There's some that pull off and stop at, I think it's Tamworth and Lichfield. So there's a big kind of variation. So what we wanted to make clear is when you took over, when before you took a train, you knew what the stopping pattern was, because if you want something that's got a few more stops, I don't want you to pick a train that's going straight from Crewe to Milton Keynes with no stops for an hour and 5 minutes. So yeah, we have tried to add that in to the description on each service, but obviously you still need to click on each service to try and figure out. Obviously, also using the time as well. The time is also useful. I think that's the big thing, is to try and figure out the times and roughly what that gives you. I think other than that, I can't think what else could be done really to improve that.
Someone's just made a comment of saying the PIS boards at stations pull from the timetable, so maybe a train schedule on a sheet could be possible. Yeah, it could be. It's probably technically possible, but like I say, maybe it's a core related thing or whatever else. So it's sort of, if it's a feature you want to see as a core thing or a feature you want to see in a route or whatever, then the forums and the Discord are places where you put that and if you get like enough people wanting that, then it's something that could be investigated, if not route specific, as a core thing. Someone said, balls to the walls has said, question: how do you do the OHLE on these routes, and how was it making a new type for Birmingham to Crewe and Trent Valley? So my question is going to be on just an additional question to that is it custom OHLE on Trent Valley? Is it going to obviously be new? And how was it making all that?
So there's some new. We use a lot of like bulk DTG assets as well. Obviously, because we've got West Coast Mainline South, it's a very similar system to certain sections. So yeah, Birmingham's Crew generally used a lot of the Euston, Milton Keynes elements really. Also used some things from Cross City. Trent Valley similar. We obviously do make certain custom ones. So what we noticed is obviously you've got, I'm used to this with the various types. I can never remember without the sheet in front of me. But obviously you've got variations of beams, etc. So where we've got certain variations of beams, we do try and alter them and try and create different ones as well. So that we get the kind of right mix. If it's not something that's seen very often, then maybe we will try and use something that's still in game, but something that obviously pops up quite regularly. Obviously we would make. I think, like for example, right in front of you now, there's quite a thin beam. For example, that.
Sorry, I've gone past it. Oh yeah, I think I can see what you mean.
Yeah. So things like that didn't exist. So we made those for Birmingham to Crewe, and obviously, as you can see, they're in use on Trent Valley as well. So yeah, we've made a few custom assets. Signalling was a big one really on Trent Valley. There's obviously being 4-track, we had to create a load of new like kind of signal gantries as well for Trent Valley as well. So there was a fair bit of work in creating new signal gantries as well. So yeah, in terms of doing the OLE, again absolute hell. Like it's 4 tracks, it's 83 new miles of track. So the person who asked that question and do the math now, it's a lot of work.
Yeah, a lot.
Particularly, we got to remember as well on good sections of the Trent Valley as well. They obviously design it quite well in case we have problems on the route. So obviously, technically, you've got your up slow, your fast, but also technically on the down fast, you can also go head towards London as well, because it's bi-directional, and it's the same heading north, so you can go obviously the down slow, the down fast, but then you can also travel bi-directional on the up fast. So obviously you can imagine how many signals that then increases as well on the route. So yeah, I think signalling and OLE was, for me, I know it's mainly mine and Shannon's area, but that in particular has been an absolute bane on this route so far.
Will there ever be? So this is going to be probably fall into the same category as earlier on, Coop. But will there ever be a route between Birmingham and Rugby with cross country? I mean, I think you're alluding to the whole Birmingham to Coventry and Northampton section, and we will certainly get onto that because I know a lot of people have asked about that. So obviously, if it's not on the roadmap, it's not coming. Tales Face, you're glad to hear it was at least tried to be brought in, and I know how difficult it could be. You guys are awesome. Keep up with the good work. There you go. It's good to hear some good comments, and I think the comments have been generally positive today, which is good. I only saw one bad comment on the post, so I've just ignored it because the question was, are they going to fix them terrible textures, and we've already talked about that, so it's sort of a core thing. Is there any future plans to go all the way to Scotland, even on the East Coast Main Line? Again, Snakebiters, this isn't. That's more of a general Trainson World question, and it's, again, if it's not on the roadmap, there's no plans. I would imagine the collection of people, third parties, and the community would like to see a full West Coast Main Line. I mean, you consider where we were at August last year when we got our was it September last year when we got our first section of the West Coast Main Line, and now in the next X amount of months we'll have all the way from Carlisle, and you'll also have the best bit, avoiding Birmingham. You know, it's I think in a year/2 years time, there's a lot of West Coast Main Lines, so the fact that we can potentially have a final stretch towards Scotland is quite exciting. If that ever became a plan from another third party, but I think the stretch from Carlisle to Scotland is not that interesting in my opinion. But I don't know much about it. I don't know. It's something if you guys have ever thought about, but yeah, I don't. Like I say, if it's not on the roadmap, it's not happening. But let's see what happens. Your favourite part of the Trent Valley is the bi-directional fasts. Do you have any tips on anyone who wants to make their own route? Yeah, there you go. That's a good question.
I think we've answered this one a few times.
Yeah, I think I remember you mentioning in the previous video we did is that don't do it alone unless you've got a good mental capacity.
I mean, I know Johannes joined the call, but I don't know if he's on. I don't even know how he did that route on his own. Like, it must be still insanely stressed getting over that route. And obviously he's helped us since, and obviously I know he's moving on with his own projects as well. You know, to do it on your own is insane. The Train Sim Classic, you can kind of do it. Train Sim World is just virtually impossible. You've got to model. You've got to do every element in it, and whilst the tools are fantastic, they're also so much more complex. And learning them is totally different. And the thing as well, people remember Train Sim Classic really kicked off in kind of the mid 2010s, 2015 to 2018, 2019, 2020 were real big, pre-COVID, big times for Train Sim Classic. You'll remember those tools came out years before that, and people really, lots of people like using the Train Sim Classic editor and learned it. And before you knew it, you had loads of individually very good. It's what ATS were brilliant at. There are loads of individual talents that was pulled together to create some fantastic products. I mean, Kieran alluded to the 185 earlier. Still my favourite train on Train Sim Classic, 185 with, doing like Chat Moss or Manchester, Leeds, etc. It's one of my. And I'm not even from that area, but that's one of my favourite to do. But people are still trying to learn things. Kieran said it earlier. DTG is still trying to learn things with the Unreal Engine editor. So yeah, to try and do a route on your own, I know Keir, I know Johannes has done it. I don't think he'd ever want to do it on his own again. correct me if I'm wrong if he's in the chat, but
He's still in the chat. Yeah, he's put a couple. He's put a smiley face in.
I know he's there. So I wouldn't. I think that was our big advice. Find people. Try and join a third party. People are always looking for support and for help, etc. As well. If you've got a skill set or a talent, and I think that's the other thing as well. Focus on particular sections. Don't try and figure it all out. Even if you just work with other people and help them out on a project doing certain things, and that teaches you the first bit, then that's fine. We've had plenty of people who have come and done bits and pieces for us, and then gone off because they're game developers or something, and they've done certain elements, and then obviously they've gone off and they've got other jobs to do, etc. as well. Something like model is a good example. So yeah, I mean, even Johannes has put, definitely can't recommend doing it alone. So, and that's from the one person that's done it alone. So, yeah, for me, try and find other people, and try talk on the forums. There's loads of people on the forums. I know loads of people would love to get into it, but it is really difficult. Firefly, another perfect example. A team of probably the best modders, on the forums, come together, and created their own third party and are now looking to release their own product. So that's a perfect example of individuals who are good at certain things came together and are in the future, hopefully in the next few months or next year, whenever that's due out, releasing their first product. So I think hopefully people can see what we've done, see what people like Firefly have done. They for me are the models. Try and find people, and build off it. Really, that would be my advice. So.
Yeah, and Janus put there, stay small, don't try doing a new train, a long route and new features all at once. I think we alluded on to this as well, is that when you think of an idea, and it's sort of like one of the answers you mentioned for why you pick a certain route is make sure you can be able to do, you don't want to build a route and then suddenly not have a train for it, and vice versa. So just sort of the best advice, and I mean, I have very little experience in Unreal, very, very little experience, and very little experience when it comes to game development as a whole. So when I see people commenting, my stance is when people see comments saying there's this wrong, this and that wrong, I can imagine it's a lot to learn. So my advice would be prepared to learn a lot of stuff, because you're not going to learn it overnight. And definitely speak to other people. Can we expect the guard to use the signal when they close the doors of the class 350-4? That's another interesting. That's completely unrelated. I just saw that. I don't know whether that's something that already happens with your 350s or not.
It doesn't happen at the moment.
No, is that a prototypical thing? I'm not too sure.
I mean, yeah. So typically, it's a real life. Obviously, you'd have the guard give 2, and then you'd give 2 back. It's not currently something that we've necessarily got planned. But I know I personally, it's something that I see quite a lot. Not just towards our content, but just in general, asking for it in TSW in general, on more trains. And I get the appeal, and it adds to the immersion. So I don't know. We'll wait and see, I guess.
Do you guys think you can achieve the same level of quality for as crew to Birmingham with longer routes like Trent Valley? So so Jaeger's asking there, do you think the route will be the same quality or better quality?
I mean, obviously, we were always going to build off what we did. We're never going to go for worse quality. I think the big thing we've obviously really had to focus on this route, which, to be honest, we already had. I mean, the majority of stations, believe it or not, were actually produced before Birmingham's Crew even came out on Trent Valley. There's still a few in production. But yeah, fundamentally, a lot were built. We'd already been incredibly targeting on a lot of those stations already in terms of how materials and textures are used, because we'd obviously learnt a lot from going through the QA process with Birmingham to Crew, and we were learning as we were going, like any new third party does. So our big focus is we're going to hopefully carry on with the same quality. We hope people like the quality. For example, we have people that do specific jobs. We have Nick, who purely goes down the route from the top end to the bottom end, and his whole job is solely responsible to do the line side elements. So between fence to fence, anything that you would see as like a line side structure, so for example bridges, etc. Nick generally tends to be the person that does like the custom OLE, for then myself or Shannon to place as well. So for example, the quality that you've seen line side on Birmingham's crew is going to completely carry it over because it's the same person. The person who's done the scenery is the same person. The person who's done the track, signalling, the OLE, it's all the same. Our core team has not changed, and they all work to certain quality standards. The biggest thing that hopefully people will recognise on Trent Valley is hopefully, and I have to say that because we've got to get into testing when we finally do, is the performance. We've learnt a lot from Birmingham to crew, so going into this route, absolutely people should expect a much better performance, and rightly so. They deserve that compared to some of the performance issues we had in the early days, especially on Birmingham as a crew. So yeah, quality really isn't going to change. If anything, we're going to build off it, Richie. Performance is the big one that we've really focused on more than anything.
Nice one. Taseface asked about like what sort of timetable route stops we could expect. I think what you would expect from a working timetable should be there, but I would imagine the details you'll want to save until future roadmaps.
Yeah, kind of details around timetables, etc. You'll get a bit more, because obviously the Avanti's got quite a few different stopping patterns, so we'll release that a little bit more in detail over the coming months.
Yeah. Do you have any idea where you may find measurements for wagons and locos, etc.? Maybe a case of contacting the maker.
It totally depends on what wagon or loco you're talking about, really.
Yeah,
some stuff's easy to get, other stuff isn't. The big thing is really having people who can get source. That's a massive one. It's that information, it isn't generally freely just on the internet for you to get. That's all I can say. So
yeah, I would advise anybody preparing to build for the game is also prepared for the community. Most of it is brilliant. Most of it is brilliant. Some of it, the community can sometimes have, like you mentioned too earlier, can be quite vicious if something is slightly out of whack. And I think it was alluded to as well in the previous video we did, that if sometimes things can be like a centimetre out of place and people will complain about it. But if you're willing to do it and you're up for it, it's a lot of learning and also a lot of what's the word I'm trying to think of? I can't think of the word now, but there's potential for people to be mean, cyberbullying and all that sort of stuff. I can't remember.
Well, it's like any public, any kind of public profile. It's no different with you, Richie, as well. You've obviously got a public profile, so in this day and age, obviously social media, etc. It's always there to be open, and you do obviously have to be aware of that element and manage it as well. Some of it is disappointing. We really tried to be a community-based team. We came obviously on your stream around release. For people that weren't in the earlier part of the stream, we've obviously included you in future stuff that we've already doing, which obviously we can't say anything more now, but so we already work on content with you for the future, because we really wanted to be a bit more than, we didn't just want to be a third party that just released content you didn't hear anything from us. We wanted to be on the forums, we wanted to give people more of an insight, and unfortunately some of the feedback that we got, it didn't mean that I took the decision to kind of make a lot of people step back from the kind of forums. We were getting so many tagging. Kieran was getting a ridiculous number of tags, pings per day, on things, etc. And at the end of the day, like any new product, it's gonna have kind of teething problems. Absolutely, should the Xbox users have faced some of the teething problems they had? Absolutely not. And like I said, we worked as fast as we could to get those fixed, and going forward, we've obviously targeted to make sure that those issues don't happen again. But at the same time, we want to work with people. We can only take on constructive criticism. Some of the criticism at times and some of the comments a less than helpful. I think is. But again, the only other thing I want to say, Richie, is such a minor part of the community as well.
Yeah.
You know, this product, I wouldn't be sat here now talking about another product if Birmingham's Crew hadn't done well. It did really well as a product. Obviously, I can't sit here and talk numbers, but it did really well, and we as a team are really happy with how it did. So yeah, it really is a minority of people. So and I get the problems are still there, but again, we want to fix those as much as people want them fixed as well. That's all I would say. So.
Cool, nice one. So I've jumped into the second part of the scenario between Rugby and Milton Keynes. You mentioned about mileage earlier. It's 32 miles between Rugby and Milton Keynes for anyone that was interested. So I think because we're on this section, shall we talk about the elephant in the room and talk about Northampton and maybe the absence of why is it not there? What was the choice of not including it? And obviously, in the same breath, why does the route not go to Birmingham? Obviously, it's kind of common sense, but for those that have queried about it, you know, how would you explain it?
Yeah, so I it's the same with the Stoke Loop. You know, like I said, I wanted to allude to the person who said that all aboard studios always miss critical parts of routes out. You know, I don't agree with that at all. You know, ATS had to miss out Alderley Edge to Crewe, and you know, Alan explained the problems there. That for me is a much bigger miss out than say the Stoke Loop or the Northampton Loop. You know, Johannes is on this. He called the route at Willesden Junction rather than Richmond. Again, there was decisions behind that. So it isn't just you know, I think that was a bit of a harsh comment that all aboard studios always call routes at certain places. You know, people could turn around and say, you know, why didn't DGG continue to rugby on West Coast Mainline South? You could on every single product say, why didn't you go to here? You know, people did it with Birmingham to Crewe. You know, as I said at the time, Birmingham to Crewe was the biggest debut route for a third party. You know, nobody else had done a debut route that long. I mean, I think things like Rivet were, you know, the Isle of Wight line.
Yeah.
You know, I think what's Mac's about 26. Just trains. I can't think what Blackpool branches was. It's about 30 odd miles.
I think about 40 something miles. I think.
40 miles. So you know, 50, 52, 53 was literally the longest. You know, we included things like Crewe and Stafford and Wolverhampton, major interchanges in the UK rail network. So, you know, it's not that simple. You know, it's another 25, 30 mile via Stoke. It's another 5 stations. That's a massive expense. You know, it took us about.
In some cases, that's a route in itself.
Literally, I mean, well, it was. I mean, look at Super Racing Classic. You know, that loop was a section in itself that was released. So, absolutely, I'd love to have included it, absolutely. But at the same time, it would have taken us up to 80 miles, another 5 stations, which is another 50%. The cost alone is one, but then you've also got to remember that it might add another 3 months onto production. Well, then that's another 3 months that, you know, for example, as a company, we've got no cash flow. So it isn't, you know, I'd love to just come on here and make 150, 200 mile routes. You know, I know the players, that's what they want. But people need to remember there are business decisions as well. And, you know, we need to look at the cost of what something's going to cost to make, just like any business. And then what the return on that's going to be, when that return is going to be. So there is a big business decision in a lot of the decisions that these companies are making, not just all aboard, but everybody else as well. And that's fundamentally why.
Yeah, and there's also, I mean, Train Simulator Driver makes a good point that no matter what you build, someone will want it to go further. But another one as well is DLC size. You know, you start getting into the realm of 100 and 150 mile routes, and you start getting into the realms of 15 to 20 gigabytes of route, which, you know, if you're then wanting 200-300 mile long routes with tons of detail, tons of stations, I mean, I don't know how it all works from like a technicals perspective. But if you've got, like I mentioned earlier, a 100-mile route but with 50 stations on it, whereas you've got 108, and it's, how many stations on Trent Valley? Is it 10? Is it 9 or 10 or something? I think it's around about that sort.
Yeah, it's better. No, I can't remember off the top of my head. You think I should know, but yeah, I can't remember.
You know, I can imagine that will be whatever DLC size that becomes to be. But you know, if that were let's say the East Coast Main Line South, which is, I think it's around about 75 miles, and I think that's got a ton of stations on it as well, plus some fairly big stations, and it's incredibly busy. You're looking at really, really high gigabyte DLCs, and then people will then start saying that the DLCs are too big, DLC sizes are too big, and all that. So no matter what anyone does, there's going to be some sort of scrutiny, and that's the word I was trying to find earlier, was scrutiny. I couldn't think of it, but you know, well, it's a case of, sorry, go ahead, but yeah, that's what I was saying. It's DLC size and all sorts of other things as well.
Well, it's trains as well, isn't it? It's not just the routes neither. The trains that come with it add on to that size as well.
Yeah.
And we're releasing a 350-4 and an 807, so they go on. So like you said, the more you keep adding to it, and people are complaining about the DLC sizes, because people on PlayStation and Xbox are running out of room. They're having to, remove things and then download things when they need as well. So that is a real problem as well. Packages. I think Matt summed it up perfectly on one of the QAs. You want more detail, they're going to be bigger. You want a more detailed station, it's going to be bigger in file size.
Yeah.
I then have 10 stations, it's going to be 10 times bigger in terms of station size. And I think Matt hit the nail on the head when he said that in one of the Q&As over the last few weeks. And that's what's happened. You go from TSW to TSW, where we are now, what 7 years on?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, they've changed massively because the detail has changed, and people want that detail. So, I mean, that's the first one. I think coming back to the original question, obviously, why we've not included things. Yeah, generally, things like playability, cost, program, all these elements go into it as well. And I think Northampton Loop, believe me, I've been. It is fundamentally my decision, and believe me, Kieran has rattled me on it a number of times, and so has Shannon as well, on whether we do it or not. And fundamentally, again, it was another 25 miles. This time it's only 2 stations. But the biggest problem for me was Northampton. Northampton Station not so much, but Northampton Depot, the track, the signalling around that is a colossal amount of work. It really is a lot of work to do. And quite frankly, with where we already are, 80 odd miles of new track, a lot of it 4-track as well, that's a lot of work for the team. So to go and add another 25-30 miles on, when we've already technically bolted on Rugby to Milton Keynes, which obviously the section you're driving now, we didn't, I didn't originally plan to do that. We added that on to give people the full Euston to Carlisle, Euston to Crewe officially, but if you want to use the back here as Euston to Carlisle, so we already kind of bolted that on. So that's, what did you say, 30 odd mile earlier, Richie, at the start of this?
Yeah, it's 32. Yeah.
So then we've already had to make Wolverton as part of that, and obviously then Milton Keynes. We haven't been able to use. We've used Milton Keynes model. We've had to completely redo Milton Keynes though, because unfortunately we weren't able to use that from the West Coast Main Line south. Because of starting coordinates, so we've had to completely redo the whole Milton Keynes area. We've just used the model. So yeah, there's already a colossal amount of work in to give people that Euston to Carlisle, to then go and add in the Northampton section.
Yeah.
And we kind of looked at it, and I saw somebody the other day say it takes away loads of playability. Well, it actually doesn't.
No. I'm gonna say this because I think realistically, when I've done a bit of research, you wouldn't actually see Trent Valley services going via Northampton anyway. Very, very not that many services do that. That's more.
I think there's like a couple, like maybe morning and night, that start there because they've come from Northampton Depot. I think that's pretty much it really. So again, they're not really doing Milton Keynes via Northampton. They're literally starting at Northampton.
Yeah.
So yeah, listen, it would create loads of playability around the depot, etc. But it's totally standalone. It's totally separate. The 350s that go from Crewe to Euston go via the route that you're on now. They don't go via Northampton. All of the Pendos, 805s, 807s go this route as well. So freight goes that way. But I'll be honest, we looked at it, and I mean, what are they, Kieran? What's the freight runs currently from Durft up to Bashford Hall? About an hour and 45, something like that.
Roughly, yeah.
Which for me is a real, it's a good length of time anyway. Do I then want to go and add another 45 minutes on? all the way via 50 minutes, all the way via Northampton down to Milton Keynes. I personally didn't feel, Richie, that was needed. I really felt that you had a real good, for me, Durst and Basford Hall are two natural endpoints for freight. It will start and endpoints.
Yeah.
So I just felt that suited a lot better. So that's why we've not included the Northampton section, fundamentally. And somebody said it fits much better with Milton Keynes to Birmingham. Absolutely, it absolutely does. It fits much better for that route, for whoever ever wants to make that. That's not me sitting here saying all the board are going to make that. So,
Taserface said Trent Valley sounds like an amazing route. I can't wait to see what you guys have planned for future. What else is there? Someone said blurry textures aside, I'm from California, but your Birmingham to Crewe route is my favourite route so far. Even bearing in mind my hometown is on the Peninsula Corridor route. There you go. So you got some Americans on board there. Will the timetable for Trent Valley have an hourly service between Crewe and Euston? Again, we've alluded to it. Details of the timetable will be confirmed closer to the release. Stoke alone would cost a fortune, says Adam. I think you alluded to that, didn't you? That it's kind of like it's essentially a route in itself, and in a similar breath, so is Northampton, because I feel like Birmingham to Milton Keynes via Northampton and Coventry is just worth being a route by itself, in my humble opinion. I think there's a lot going on there, in terms of stations, in terms of for some pretty big stations. You got like Birmingham International. It'd be a pretty busy timetable as well, because the Birmingham to Coventry section is heaving with stuff. So I think as a standalone product that'd be fine. But like you've mentioned, in terms of actual playability and trying to actually connect up the West Coast main line, I feel like what's being offered is the best sort of option, because you are fully getting a big old stretch of the West Coast main line, and like the graphic shows, there's if you want to include the 80s or timetable mods, if you want to do it all modern, then you've got such a massive part of the UK rail network that you can go across. What other questions have we got? So yeah, Northampton loop would fit better from Milton Keynes to Birmingham. Will the Class 90 add on for freight? Again, that'll all be confirmed closer to the date, I would imagine. And then I think, let's see what else we've got on the post. This cab feels a little American with how cramped it is. It's just prototypical, isn't it? The 350s, they're small cabs, aren't they?
Like any new EMU, they're all very, on DMUs as well. They're all very tight nowadays.
This is a question I've been leaving towards the end, but bit of a miscellaneous question. But what are your guys' favourite UK trains? And I'm also going to bundle this into another wish list question of what are your favourite UK trains, and what is a train you'd love to be able to make if you could make it. Bearing in mind, obviously, it's a wish list and it's not confirmed or anything.
I don't know. As Matt said, I'm not really a train person. So I'm a railway person. So I'm a civil engineer by trade. So, trains. What would I like? I'm a big fan of Pendolino's, obviously already in. For me, I think it depends really. It depends on what route it comes with as well.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's really important. Getting a train and a route right is really important. You can have a really good train, and then it have a bit of a stink of a route. Go on, Kieran. You can go first, because I can't think of what I want.
Well, I already technically answered before.
Yeah, I think you did, didn't you?
185. There you go.
Yeah, well, like I said earlier, 185 was my favourite on TSC really. So I love driving. Kev did a fantastic job on that train, TSC. So yeah, I don't know. I'd love that train to come to TSW. So
I think I agree. I think a 185. I think even just seeing TPE in the game would be nice, because I love the liveries of the TPE. I think it looks stunning. It's just a shame if like after they were cancelled, but yeah, it's I do look
Can
at
I just say, I'm not getting involved in that conversation in case we ever decide to work with TPE. That was the voice of RichyRail.
I'm going to use the all the opinions that expressed in this are solely my own and do not reflect anyone I may be associated with. No, I'm just joking. It's a bit of banter, but yeah, I'd love to see TPE. I do like what trains they have and where delivery looks. Taser faced. I may have missed this, but did the announcements change on the 350? The woman doesn't talk as much anymore. Was there an update to the announcements on the 350s on Birmingham Crew?
Hard to know because the problem is the 350 announcements come from the UK content pack. Like Kieran said, we had a lot of help from DTG in terms of the announcements because of how late we added them. So sometimes there are changes to the UK content pack that we don't see that could technically change what you see on our route. So whilst we may not have touched anything, if something's changed in the UK content pack on an update, it may change something. I know, for example, somebody always says, when are you finally going to change Runcorn from Runcorn East? Like, again, just nothing I can do with that because it's not our announcements.
I think the announcements thing is a core thing anyway. The way the actual core thing and how it draws the data in is a core thing anyway.
You can have all of your own announcements. Obviously, there's a lot of work in that and getting all of your own announcements as well. You've got to have every single station name that you need for your train or for your route or whatnot. So yeah, there's a lot of work in doing that. It's why obviously on Birmingham Crew we use the default UK content pack. So
as we've got around about 5 miles left to Milton Keynes, is there any other sort of key features that you want to mention about the Trent Valley? Any cool landmarks? I know you mentioned a lot about the freight, and to be fair, we've gone into a lot of detail with it. I know that at the minute I'm flying through some disused stations, so is there anything you've spotted question wise or anything else that you want to add on to for what people can look forward to in terms of Trent Valley?
I mean, a bit of feature, I think I already alluded to it earlier. So, for example, we'll be including, because the 807s and 805s are coming in, we are going to be including the new MU speeds on the line. So, as right now, you'll be going past speedboards, Richie, and they'll just have the normal speedboard and then an EPS speed. As part of the new program, it will there's new MU boards for the 805 and 807 stock. So we've included all of that. So you've got the updated speeds. It's also been parts of Trent Valley have been re-signalled in the last kind of 2 years, 2.5 years. So we've included that as well. We've basically tried to make it as up to date as we possibly can, really. Other than that, I'm trying to think of new features.
Whilst you think of some, I have just thought of a very quick question myself in terms of actual like landmarks and stuff. So where's the route actually set in? Because I know at the minute they're doing a ton of work around Lichfield to do with HS2, which I think subsequently got cancelled. So at the minute the area around the A38 it's all been ripped up and it's all exposed dirt and stuff. So is that represented, or is it a different time era? Is it slightly different, like a couple of years back, or?
Yeah, so we have one interaction with HS2, which is just east of Lichfield Station.
That's right. And that's the one I think I'm referring to. I think. Yeah.
So the underpass, the underbridge as it will be, where HS2 will go underneath the West Coast Main Line. Yes, that underbridge, which it was installed about a year ago. That is on the featured in the game. So yeah, it is as modern as we can get it, really. I think the cab ride we use is about 6-7 months old. We've got all the latest kind of signalling diagrams, etc. And so yeah, it's as modern as we can get it, really, to the last few months. So
nice one. Flying Thunder says, is there more functionality involved with the 805 compared to the other IETs already featured in Train Sim World? I don't know what other functionality there would be, but yeah, is there anything else, any more enhancements, let's say, to what we've already got?
Probably need to elaborate on if, like,
what
I'm not really
yeah
too sure. Yeah, what else there would be to add? like there's changes to obviously existing systems, like for example the PIS system, for example. But in terms of additional stuff, I don't know. You'd have to
No.
elaborate on what you mean.
But yeah, no, I think from the sounds of things, it certainly sounds like it's going to be a really good route, and a lot of people seem excited by it. And we've also had a lot of interest. We've consistently had around about 60 to 70 people watching. So thank you all for coming in and showing your support, guys. Much appreciate you all showing in and showing your interest with your questions. And thank you for you two for coming in as well and giving some good clarification and some answers to those questions. I think it's really useful to have this sort of thing, this sort of, like you mentioned earlier, actually have a platform where you can sort of quickly discuss some things, or if there's any questions or anything that you can start like building up some hype for. It's a good sort of way to do it, and it's a bit different. I'm also going to spad here, I think. I'm going to spad. Oh dear. I spadded. Right at the end. Oh dear. But yeah, you can elaborate, like more buttons on the TMS or in the cab, for example.
Buttons? Is there any more buttons?
Well, the big problem, isn't it, Kieran, that we struggled with the 805 and 807 is that, especially with train faults, for example, a lot of the fuses weren't usable on the original IT, and we'd have to have completely rebuilt all the fuse panel. And that's been one of the challenges. So certainly going forward, I mean, we certainly looked at future products, at how we can do better, and how we can kind of get more on board with things like train faults. The other challenge that people have on as well is, for example, train faults. Believe it or not, whilst it may seem fantastic to the players, some TOCs may not want their trains to have train faults. They don't want their trains being shown that they fail or have issues. So again, we obviously, where licensing is involved, we obviously have to work with them to figure out what is suitable and what they are happy with as well. So yeah, we certainly, as we've always said, as we're growing, we've done more work on, for example, the 805 and 807 than we ever did on the 350. And going forward over the next few years, we're going to do even more and more work, and obviously look at building our own trains as well as we go forward as well. But you know, in terms of, and obviously that then gives us more freedom to incorporate more of these features as well, I think. But right now we're kind of stuck a little bit with, when you're editing an existing train, there are some things you are a little bit stuck to. I think it's probably the best way, Kieran, that we can summarise it really.
Okay, nice one. Mr. Spadtastic, good to see you're in with your standard form, Richie. Oh dear. You know what? I've gone 3 hours without doing a spad, so I think we can be happy with that. But yeah, that's been really, really useful. Is there anything else that you want to quickly touch on? I'm pretty sure we've covered quite a lot of detail there. But yeah, is there anything else you want to mention?
No, I think that's it. I think, like I said, I think you alluded to earlier, it's a fantastic opportunity for people to come out, come and ask questions. We obviously see, as soon as the route's announced, we obviously know it's being announced, and we obviously get loads of questions, and it's kind of hard to answer them on the forums, etc. So no, we just thought this was a really good opportunity to just come and spend a bit of time. We obviously did this with you pre-Birmingham to Crewe, and we thought this was a really good opportunity to just kind of come and answer any questions that people had, both Birmingham to Crewe, because we saw things like that. Oh, does this mean you just leaving Birmingham to Crewe and leave, not fixing it, etc. So, we saw a lot of questions obviously around things like Northampton Loop and about certain layers on the timetable. So yeah, we just wanted to come and answer what we could as best as possible, really, and be a bit more of a voice rather than just a few words on Discord, really. So yeah, no, thanks for letting us come on as well, Richie.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. Honestly, I've really enjoyed it. It's been good to do something a little bit different, but also like drive the route and also give a taster for what you can expect for Trent Valley. I know it's in TSC, but if you can use your imagination, then you can certainly look forward to the key landmarks and the features and the as people have queried about OHLA as well. So yeah, I genuinely really appreciate you guys hopping on tonight and taking the time, and I'm sure the chat as well will appreciate it as well. Got some good answers there, and hopefully this has built up some hype for the route. So as more information comes out, and not just the Trent Valley but the 805 as well, as more information comes out, then obviously make sure to pay attention to all the board's website, the forums, all that sort of stuff. All their information is linked in the description if you want to go find out. And of course, you know, if you've got any queries about anything when things get announced, obviously I'm sure you'll be around on the forums and on the Discords as well. So yeah, like I say, all is left to say to me again, thank you very much, and I very much look forward to Trent Valley and the 805 coming out when they do. So yeah, if there's nothing else you guys want to mention, maybe just a quick slight overview of Trent Valley before we finish off. So mileage, stations, and then we'll call it a night.
Well, you call me off guard, and I'm counting on my hands now. Station. I'm not even. It's hard really because obviously we've got Crewe, Stafford, Milton Keynes. We've taken from West Coast Main Line South, Lichfield. We've obviously taken from Cross City. So yeah, obviously very different to Birmingham to Crewe. It's longer, more high speed. We obviously got the 807, 350-4 included. So you've got your kind of your stopper services down there, which, I mean, even I say stoppers, it's not stopping every 2 or 3 minutes, you know, like 10 minutes between stations. You've got your 807, which will obviously do your long distance IET services. Obviously we're not going to go into layers, but yes, expect to see a big use for the Pendolino if you have that. If you don't, then definitely get it. I don't know if the sales are still on, but certainly go and get it because it'd be a fantastic use on this. But yeah, the 805 obviously due out in the new year as well. It will add a loads of new gameplay actually, scenarios, a full timetable that you originally had from Forks. If you had PC, you can now get it on PlayStation and Xbox. On West Coast Mainland South, obviously a brand new timetable for Birmingham to Crewe as well. And obviously bringing all those features together, so all of your 350s, your IET fleet, your 390s. It will bring it all together in those 3 new timetables. And yeah, I think that's it. I think in terms of mileage, I mean, yes, I think it's gone off the top of my head what it is now. I know it's 100.
I think it's 108 miles, isn't it? Something like that.
100. I should know. I gave Alex the original. I gave Alex the details. So yeah, it's 108 miles, 83 miles of new track. In essence, for Trent Valley. So yeah, longest A to B route. And for us, like you said, it's a real big test. Is this what you and the community want? Do you want these big long runs, or would you rather a 30-mile stopper with 20 stations? So, you know, if you do like long end-to-end runs and high speed, then you know, let's hear about it when this hopefully comes out in the next few months, hopefully. So
nice one. Yeah, Kieran, anything to add, or are you happy to call it a night?
No. Summed it up quite perfectly. So
past his bedtime.
Are you joking? He starts work about now.
I was just about to say it's more like he's about to start. It's
lunchtime for me.
No, again, thank you guys for coming on. Much appreciated.
Thank you.
Yeah, cheers, Richie.
And yeah, if any of you have got any further comments or questions, just put them on that post and I can feed them back. And then yeah, when these products come to release, we'll hopefully be back with some more content and more questions and all sorts of good stuff. So yeah, thank you again, both of you, and thank you all for watching tonight. And yeah, we'll hopefully see you all next time. Bye everyone.